Like, share, and subscribe. That shit Federal TV.
Welcome to the Roundtable. My name is Tarik. We're dealing with some issues dealing with protecting the Moorish birthright and fundamental principles on how you're going to file a suit. We'll discuss many matters and points of interest and points of necessary information that some of you already know, and some points of information that some of you may not have known, but they're all vital in point. Then we're going to give you some history. We're going to give you some jurisprudence under which law comes, and give you some points of self-responsibility relative to these matters for your personal self as well as for the nation at large and your children. And so these matters that we're going to be discussing will be inclusive or relative to the point of protecting your Moorish birthright. And I recognize that a lot of people have concepts, pro and con, concerning the Moorish movement, many of them correct and positive, and many of them incorrect and misleading. So one of the things that we want to do is clear up concepts about a lot of issues. And I also want to apologize to everyone here because there was some misinformation that went out earlier that the meeting was canceled, which you see a lot of people from all over who were coming were under the impression that we had canceled. We did not. All right? So the place would have been packed. But it is just as well, you just take the information back with you in your territories and areas. After we discuss these matters, we'll have a question and answer session. I would also suggest that if you have paper and pen, take notes. Because some things you'll understand, some things you'll probably have questions on, but like anything else, everything can't be taught like at a meeting necessarily. It's not designed that way. These meetings are designed to inspire you to be self-responsible, to do some research, to do some cross-reference, and to free your mind from misconcepts or things that you may have thought were. And we're going to give you some keys of information to expose the fact that a lot of your concepts are wrong. We're not challenging your concepts. We're giving you certain information to free your own mind so you can recognize it for yourself. The other deal is that we want everybody to understand that the Moorish Divine National Movement is your movement. It's not something that we're talking about trying to get you interested in. What we're trying to make you see for yourself is that it already belongs to you. And because of misinformation over the decades, most people have a misconcept of this movement because so much effort was made or put forth to suppress it or to create misunderstanding. Also, when people get the information or get certain concepts of the information, they don't know how to use it. So we're going to work in a lot of those areas. And when you feel there's something that you don't understand, come up here. Don't worry about what the question is, you ask it. Because if you don't ask questions, guess what? Nothing gets solved. And remember this, the only reason why some of these problems exist economically, socially, politically, and spiritually is because sorcerers have been at work. If you would tell people from the door that they've been under influence of sorcerers, they think you're talking Star Wars or some kind of Harry Potter thing. But that's the real fact. And so most of the times you don't come to the people and come from that angle because you know they can't handle it. They get spooked up, they think you're trying to sell them some kind of religion, etc., etc. And of course they don't believe that that's in effect. Well, it is in effect. That's how you became known as Negroes and Africans. We're going to knock off those things in a minute too. So before we get into some points, I want to make these very important points and issues. The heart of what we're talking about tonight is protecting the Moorish birthrights and the fundamental principles of suits. What a suit is, how you should proceed in it, etc., etc., etc. That's why I want you to take notes, because everything in those points we won't be able to go over again, but we'll go over the important parts, so get that in your heads. In the future, others will be here on a regular basis who will be teaching points of protecting your birthrights. And over a period of time, some of the things we're going to put in the paper. As a matter of fact, the editor-in-chief, Brother Abdullah, was suggesting to me to do with that before. It was just that we have so much stuff to deal with, so much stuff to put out, back stuff, that we can't do it all in one time, but we intend to get as much out as we can. We're also going to reissue the Moore civil letter, which we had used before, and because we were so tied up with other issues, we didn't have time to work on the paper and that, but we're going to put it out because we have to get that information out because there's so few people that are willing to, put their neck on the line and tell it like it is, because so many people are bought off already and compromised. And we also want to influence you, for the sake of the children and the nation, to have the courage to speak some of those truths along the same line, because that's what's going to get you out of this mess. Unless we're going to be willing to deal with truth, we're not getting out of this mess. Now I want to make one issue, one point, and I'm going to bring it to a point of law, jurisprudence, and share with you this, and you think on it, and if anyone has any questions, ask or talk about it later. Now, Noble Ali, Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali, established the Moorish Divine and National Movement in North America, really around 1911, 1912, and officially active 1913. A lot of preliminary work was going on before the movement was initially, or what you call officially, established. So whereas people look at it as the movement starting in 1913, that's the official date of what you say official activity. But the business was going on for quite some time. One of the things I want you to pay attention to, and we're not going to go over all those points today, but I want you to look into for yourself, because that's not the subject matter, but I want to throw this out there. Look at the timeline. When Drew Ali established the Moorish Divine National Movement in 1913, all right, on the other side of the government, they met and they established the Internal Revenue Service. Yes, Federal Reserve System. Now, when Drew Ali was doing his work and about to establish this movement officially, Woodrow Wilson had got his degree at Johns Hopkins University, his PhD, and he was being, at that time, courted for the election to the presidency of the United States Republic. Now, during the Wilson administration, to counter Noble Drew Ali, and you must really understand this so you can understand a lot of activities that are going on with a lot of different groups. The point of this mission is the enforcement of our Constitution. Most people's misunderstanding is thinking that the Constitution for the Republic, United States, North America, was established by the European sons or the knights. Not true. The number is 35 and 20. 35 Moors, 20 European sons, in agreement to stop centuries and centuries of wars between the Moors and the Roman nations. And when we say the Roman nations means the European nations collectively, not just Rome the city. Now, we've had wars since the Punic Wars on up to the Battle of the Crusades, right on up to the Battle of Poitiers near Tours, France, right on up to the French Revolution and the North American, which they say the American Revolution, but it's North American Revolution. They're all tied together. If you don't know that now. It is the longest revolution in the world. You fell, that's how you became niggers. That's where your slavery really came from. Fact is, that part of history is not taught to separate you from your authority, your self-authority, the empire of the world, and particularly the Moroccan Empire in which you're standing right now. Now, how did the Moors become known as Africans? We are not Africans, and we're not African Americans. Scipio Africanus, a Roman general, was fighting the Barker Bay family, which you know as Hannibal, Hasdrubal, etc. When they defeated him, he poisoned himself rather than give up, by the way. Anyway, when they defeated them, he put his name on the northwest coast of Kibalan, or Tameri, that's called Africa today. Do you understand? not the continent. Near Tunis, Algiers, what you call Morocco, the kingdom. You understand? Kingdom is subordinate to empire. That area, just that part, was called Africanus, after Scipio, the god general. All right? Who's given the honor for defeating the great Moors. They weren't totally defeated. That was that area. All right? Now you got to also look at these. I'm giving you different points of history so that you can look into them and see yourself and see the motives of how you got where you are. Because this is important in order for any suits that you may place in any court of law in the world and in this United States, so it can be totally valid. All right? So these Moors became known as Africans, and a lot of Moors even today thinking that they're going back to their bloodlines, talking about we're Africans. Well, they're not Africans. They're Moors. All right? Is that clear? The word Africa comes from Scipio Africanus, the Roman general who the Moors who capitulated made him their god. All right? So in order to honor their god, they called themselves after their god Africans. Just like the Moors in the modern time honor their god and give him the title that belonged originally to us, white man. Call him the great white father and call him God, and they put his name on their children as a curse and a title of possession, Smith, Jones, Johnson, and Whoopi Goldberg. Do you understand? Because he's their God. They will not buy, they will not sell, they will not move, they will not breathe unless they pay their God first, and they get angry at you if you bring it to them just like that. So you got to allow them their dignity so they don't burn your house down. That's the mentality of a Negro, a nigger, a colored person. A being that's outside of the human family that commands dignity. And the world sees us that way until we honor our mothers and fathers who were Moabites, Moors. We don't see ourselves that way because of our arrogance and our self-righteousness. However, at law, you have no standing. So these are keys that are important to understand when you play suits. Because if you play suit in a fraudulent position, the suit really has no jurisdiction, no power in the jurisdiction, because it's subordinate to one who owns it. It, not you, it. Because Negro, black, and colored was coined by the European sons in order to distinguish human chattel property from the human family who had national names like every other civilized being. Then what happened, we adopted these things and then tried to impose it on the civilized world, get rejected, and accuse them of prejudice. So the real deal is that we're both in violation of law. And so we have to get out of the culture of playing victim, and he has to get out of the culture of his corrupt superiority when he's a fraud and a substitute in both law and government. But we have, both of us have fallen in love with the lie. You understand? So now what we have to do is begin to systematically bring the correct information so that when, as Moors become conscious and they get repressed by the corporations, which is substituting as a government, that they have some redress, some method of redress, even though ultimately the fall will come from their own corruption. Meanwhile, it's sort of like you got to learn to live within the contracts. And so these are things that we're talking about. So keep these things in mind, because it's very important when it comes to the point of protecting your Moorish birthright, if you're forced to sue, that you be in your proper person, which is also why Drew Ali reminded the Moors before this thing even came, when this thing fell all apart, he says, if you don't do anything else, declare your nationality, be yourselves. Of course, you all know, those of you who know law, know that being yourself in law is in propria persona sui juris. All right? So when you see that, you know that that's being yourself. The other thing that you'll notice that in the corporate and colorable courts, that very often if you file a suit, etc., they'll put in there on it pro se, if you're dealing with it yourself. And then you might see the magistrate say to you that the pro se and the impropriate persona is the same thing. It's a lie. Appropriate persona sui juris is your own proper person. And in truth, you only have standing at law when you're in your proper person. These are reasons that Drew Ali set those things up, because he knew it was coming, but he also knew we was hard-headed. And he also knew we wasn't going to listen, that we were going to play with emotions and go start following people who were telling you this was religion when it's the return of your birthright, and you'd be confused because we're dedicated people means that we always looking for something to worship. Oh, there's a mic, so I'm converting from this camera, and next week now the mic is God. Has no ears to hear, no heart to sympathize, no reasoning power, and then when it fails, now it's the flag. And this is what we've done. This is what dedication means. You understand? So people have the wrong concept of Allah, of Yeshua, the prophets, Jesus. All of their concepts are totally wrong. These were liberators. They were social reformers. They dealt with civilization law and principles of what? Isonomy. And that principle is ancient. And that principle is symbolized by a compass and a square. And that symbolized Moore's law. And it's ancient, it's not modern, even though some organizations may use it and claim it's yours. And isonomy means equal rights and equal justice in the society. The United States Republic, North America, was founded on the principle of isonomy. And every European son that's presented to you in history as a main key in the foundation of this government was 3rd, 33rd, 360-degree free Moorish master masons in secret. Do you understand that? That goes with Jefferson, Adams, Washington, Franklin, etc., etc., etc. And they got a fez too. You understand? The reason the United States Republic North America was established, again, coming back where I started, was to stop the series of wars between the Romans and the Moors. Do you understand that? They have you thinking that this republic was started because of some religious freedom from England. Well, I'll tell you that the Danes of England were Moors. All right? And the monarchy that they talked about is simply the constitutional governing power being vested in sultans, etc., or in single person. It is the most correct form of government, except if it gets corrupt, it goes absolutely opposite. That monarchy form of government was transferred on what you call the people's scale for the United States of America. Most people don't know that the three branches of government is really the monarchy spread out. The government set in the form of recognizing the birthright of the people, and is based in divine and cosmological law. And the deal with it is, and a lot of people are not aware of this, even people in government, yeah, they are, because they're told that, truthfully, because they learned it in their secret societies. But as far as the masses are concerned, is that because it is based in divine law, the consequence of violating the Constitution, the retort, the recompense, the revenge is based in nature, not in you. So if they violate the law, you violate the law, constitutional law, it's already set in the atmosphere. So you can play games all you want to. That's what makes the United States really so unique, not what they've been telling you. Because this government was set up on the principle of isonomy. And that is divine law. And the keys to it is set up also in the Declaration of Independence. Nature's God and nature's law. And don't you think it's not. But the Warning Act was put out, Noble Drew Ali, that if these rules, if these principles were not enforced, that the worst was yet to come. I'm going to read from the latest paper, because one of the things I did in the latest paper, you all have the latest paper? The Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Moorish Divine National Movement, Part 1. All right, we're going to read the centerfold. And I want you to recognize what's in here, then analyze it. and deal with what you're dealing with today. And then we're going to break it down and talk about some things. Then later we're going to talk about how to sue. Moorish leaders, historical, divine warning for the nations. Nations is plural. That's centerfold. The citizens of all national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the names and the principles that delude to slavery. I, the prophet, was prepared by the great God Allah to warn my people to repent from their sinful ways and go back to that state of mind of their forefathers' divine and national principles, that they will be law-abiders and receive their divine right as citizens according to the free national constitution that was prepared for all free national beings. They are to claim their own free national name and religion. There is but one issue: for them to be recognized by this government and of the earth, and it comes only through the connection of the Moorish divine national movement, which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all other nations of the world. And through it they and their children can receive their divine rights unmolested by other citizens, that they can cast a free national ballot at the polls under the free national constitution of the state's government and not under a granted privilege as has been the existing condition for many generations. You who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those who know law in the city hall and among the officials in your government, and ask them under an intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply, for they are glad to see me bring you out of darkness into light. Money doesn't make the man. It is free national standards and power that make the man and a nation. The wealth of all national governments, gold and silver and commerce, belong to the citizens alone. And without your national citizenship by name and principles, you have no true wealth. And I am hereby calling on all true citizens that stand for a national free government and the enforcement of the Constitution to help me in my great missionary work, because I need all support from all true American citizens of the United States of America. Help me to save my people who have fallen from the constitutional laws of government. I am depending on your support to get them back to the constitutional fold again, that they will learn to love instead of hate, and will live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, supporting our free national constitution of the United States of America. I love my people and I desire for their unity and mind back to their own national and divine standard, because day by day they have been violating the national and constitutional laws of their government by claiming names and principles that are unconstitutional. If Italians, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, it is no more than right that the law should be enforced upon all other American citizens alike. In all other governments, when a man is born and raised there and asks for his national descent name, and if he fails to give it, he is misused, imprisoned, or exiled. Any group of people that fail to answer up to the constitutional standards of law by name and principles, because to be a citizen of any government you must claim your national descent name, because they place their trust upon issues and names formed by their forefathers. The word Negro deludes in the Latin language to the word nigger, the same as the word color deludes to anything that is painted, varnished, and dyed. And every nation must bear a national descent name of their forefathers, because honoring thy mothers and thy fathers, your days will be lengthened upon the earth. These names have never been recognized by any true American citizens of this day. Through your national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth, and are recognized by said national government in which they live. The 14th and 15th Amendment brought the North and South in unit, placing the Southerners who were at that time without power with the constitutional body of power. And at that time, 1865, the free national constitutional law that was enforced since 1774 declared all men equal and free. And if all men are declared by the free national constitution to be free and equal, since that constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendments for the salvation of our people and citizens. So there is but one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem that which was lost, and that is through the above statements. Then the lion and the lamb can lie down together in yonder hills, and neither will be harmed, because love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice will be reigning in this land. In those days, the United States will be one of the greatest civilized and prosperous governments of the world. But if the above principles are not carried out by the citizens and my people in this government, the worst is yet to come. Because the great God of the universe is not pleased with the works that are being performed in North America by my people, and this great sin must be removed from the land to save it from enormous earthquakes, diseases, etc. And I, the prophet, do hereby believe that the administration of the government being more wisely prepared by more genius citizens that believe in their free national constitution and laws, and through the help of such classes of citizens, I, the prophet, truly believe my people will find the true and divine way of their forefathers and learn to stop serving carnal customs and merely ideas of men that have never done them any good but have always harmed them. So I, the prophet, am hereby calling aloud with a divine plea to all true American citizens to help me to remove this great sin which has been committed and is being practiced by my people in the United States of America, because they know it is not the true and divine way, and without understanding they have fallen from the true light into utter darkness of sin, and there is not a nation on earth today that will recognize them socially, religiously, politically, or economically, etc., in their present condition of their endeavorment in which they themselves try to force upon a civilized world. They will not refrain from their sinful ways of action, and their deeds have brought Jim Crowism, segregation, and everything that brings harm to human beings on earth. And they fought the Southerner for all these great misuses. But I've traveled in the South and have examined conditions there, and it is the work of my people continuously practicing the things which bring dishonor, disgrace, and disrespect to any nation that lives the life. And I am hereby calling on all true American citizens for moral support and finance to help me in my great missionary work to bring my people out of darkness into marvelous light from the prophet. Now, you know, this was decades ago. This was even before they suspended the Constitution. So you got to look at the timeline. Now, a lot of misery that you're going to be facing, and you will. I'm also going to give you a little bit of astrological, mathematical prophecy. Third World War is already on. It started roughly around 1969, officially. In initiating this Third World War is how you're going to be freed, because they have no intentions. Truthfully, they're incorrigible. They have no intentions of enforcing the Constitution. Why? They're criminals. Your concepts of dealing with government officials is wrong. They're not your government. The United States has not had a legitimate government since 1914. Huh? That's when Wilson, he's a knight. What you call President Wilson. They made deals, and what they did, they were in the process of stealing your gold and your silver. Now, do you know what separations of powers is? When our forefathers set up this Constitution in order to stop these wars between the Moors and the Roman nations and set up the United States uniquely as a symbol for the rest of the world, as a pattern to go back to the ancient laws and principles of civilization which were founded by the Moors, which were violated, which is why you are having these wars in the first place. Do you know the principles or the fundamental principles upon which the separation of powers is set up. The floor is open. You can throw it. Anyone know? You know the reason. Which branch of government was given the delegated authority, a DOAO, delegation of authority order, by Constitution law to coin the money? Congress?
I was just going to answer that question.
Go ahead, answer it.
Church, state.
Congress.
Separation of,
The Congress. The Congress. Now, the Congress is the only body that has the authority to coin the money for the United States Republic. Federal Reserve System established between 1913 and 1916. Is that in the Constitution? Is that a part of your government? Why do people think it is? Because they don't know, they haven't studied. So now they're enslaved to the Knights Templar, veiled also in Masonry, servants to the King of England, taking care of their Negro property that's carrying their name, Smith, Jones, and Johnson, and whoever y'all calling yourself this year. If you institute any suit in their name, the court automatically has jurisdiction because the judge is a member of the Bar Association of England, that has branches here in North America. His first obligation is to the courts, which are colorable for colored people and color of law. Now, in case you didn't know what that is, color means anything painted, varnished, dyed, anything fake, hiding something, fraud, etc. That's also why they tagged Moors who had fell colored people also, because it means that we're faking it, acting like we're human beings because we dishonor our mothers and fathers willingly, knowingly. So that makes them legally called people. That's not an issue of complexion. That's a legal and lawful term that describes a condition of a people from a jurisprudence perspective. So as soon as you declare out your mouth that you're called a person, automatically the Christian Black Codes of 1724 come into effect because you just agreed to it. Because they coined that for people who dishonor their mothers and their fathers. Because if you don't honor your mothers and fathers, don't worry, your days ain't going to be long on this planet. And they own you because you've been transacting business in their names and you know it. Even your babies knew it. And you thought it wasn't important. Well, it is. Because when you did that, you gave up your birthright willingly. That's a contract. You just made a pact with them. And it's enforceable all over the world. So Negroes, blacks, and colored people, which are its, they're not human beings, have no rights before any human being on the planet. Not because they don't like you, because you agreed to that by claiming to be something that you are not. What you need to know that it had legal and lawful implications, and this is what they didn't tell you. They just told you it was an opinion, you know, people feel about you and all that kind of crap, and you believed them and gave up your birthright. That's what the so-called Negro problem actually is, from a legal and jurisprudence point of view. Before you can have standing at law, the lack of it is called no judicio standi, which means you have no standing at law. In order to change that, you must be in your proper person, which is why Drew Ali said, be yourselves. But then there's so much information that had to be imparted to you before you could understand what that statement really meant. So he set up Old Canaanite Temple, Moorish Holy Temple of Science, but these were veiled because the Roman sons was not going to let this happen. Just like Wilson said, he told the prophet, he said, if you give these niggers back Islam, that's like putting a pair of pants on a horse. And laughed at him. He said, however, I'll back you up, because that's his obligation. After all, he's a Mason. They know your history. They know their obligation to that Constitution, but they know, for the most part, because we're so dedicated that we didn't want it. That's why he was speaking with such confidence. You understand? In other words, you can come amongst us and sell us a God every two days. We'll build churches, mosques, synagogues, gold them down, jewels in the wall, have some guy walk in here with suitcases, you understand, talk about he's government and this and everything, and walk away with packs of money and you think you've been blessed. The only reason why you're spiritual or you're lighter because your pockets is lighter. And everybody in the world knows that about us. Do you understand? Every civilized being on the planet, when they leave their mother, which is the nation, which is natal, that navel, that's your only birthmark. When they leave their mother, they're taught the truth about their natal responsibilities, their relationship to the world. And you have an obligation when you go out into the world to honor your mothers and your fathers. So you'll never see a Chinese, Japanese, Korean, any of the Asiatic brothers from the upper continent, Asia, come telling you they're talking about some light-skinned yellow rights. Why do they not do that? Because they're civilized human beings. They're part of the human family. They honor their mothers and fathers. They're not going to come here talking about, well, I'm going to the mall, get me a light-skinned black leather coat. They know that's fiction. But little boys and girls, even though they got big bodies, think that that's real. Think that the human family is crayons. And if you try to tell them different, they think you're trying to sell them some kind of religion. Why do they think like that? Because the sorcerers have done a good job. But if you tell them sorcerers have been working on them, you know what they'll tell you? You're out to lunch. You understand? But you cannot use reasoning with them. And you know how they say also, if you want to hide something from their chattel or from their niggers, which means extremely ignorant person, just put it in the book, right? I'm going to give you just a little lesson. These are ordinary dictionaries. This particular set is this is a standard dictionary. Funk and Wagner's, I know everybody's familiar with them because they put out encyclopedias. And this is from the encyclopedia set, right? Now, like say, for instance, we have this baby here, say second grade, third grade, right? Because those are important because they also base the system off the zodiac too. You know, your quarters, the 3 quarters. Now let's look at this. Now we take a child, right? Take a child before they're messed up by their parents and say, when they first begin to teach you what they call grammar and parts of speech, every word in the language has an etymological basis or an etymological indicator, usually written in italics right after the word. And it'll give you the part of speech that it is. And they'll take a child and they'll say, well, what's your name? And teacher will say, well, now your name is a proper noun. So it's capitalized. Child said, oh, all right, I'll go with that. They don't really understand, but they go along with it, right? And they'll say to the child, well, that's a sweater. Is it pink or is it red? And they say, oh, yes. Now, is the red the noun or is sweater a noun? The child will say, well, the sweater is the noun because that's what it is, whether it's red, green, purple, orange, or what, because that's an adjective. An adjective modifies or qualifies a noun. But an adjective does not identify anything. Because a noun is a word used to identify person, place, thing, or idea. Right? This is children. Children. How many adults will turn around because of their quote-unquote, not knowledge, but beliefs, and corrupt their children and then send them out in the world to get beat up? So let's go to a dictionary and look up the word black. Now, in the dictionary, and I'm going to have someone confirm it. Can any one person come up here who feels like it? Confirm this. Black is an adjective. Yes, confirm it. Because the etymological categorization of the word, not only its root history, but the part of speech comes in italics right after the word. Is it an adjective or is it a noun?
It's an adjective.
Adjective.
So if it's an adjective, can it be an identity of anybody? Can an adjective be the identity of anybody?
No.
A proper noun is, am I correct? Remember, these are the children's lessons, right? All right? You confirm it, yes.
The entire?
Yes, please.
Black. B-L-A-K and in a parenthesis, adjective, having little or no power to reflect light, of the color of jet, the opposite of white, having a very dark skin, as a Negro, also swarthy, somber, dark, destitute of light, gloomy, dismal, forbidding, also sad, shameful, soiled, stained, evil, malignant, wicked, deadly, slanderous, malicious, threatening, a black-hearted wretch.
All right, you don't have to go any further. Appreciate that, brother. It's a prayer. It's a prayer. And it's a word used by the sorcerers when they were denationalizing you. And all they needed you to do was start uttering that prayer for them in one word. And you would cast it into your children because it would go into your womb. Because just like you use ingredients of what you eat to feed that child, and remember, woman produces male and female. Man ain't never met nothing. I got breasts. They ain't fed nothing. Never. Suckers don't work. Just remind me of my origin. But if I deny that truth, I'm denying how the Creator set this thing up. Aren't I? That's also a sin. And we've been practicing that too, haven't we? Huh? Haven't we? Huh? Haven't the religions taught you to disrespect women? Hasn't the religions taught you to disrespect her cycles? Calling her unclean? Huh? Adam talking about, you see, God called me on Wednesday and told me, I'm going to take your rib and make you a mate. He's standing up there with a belly button. And you all believed it. Do you understand what I'm saying? We violate divine law and then look for divinity to come to our aid. Why should Mother Nature save you when you have no respect to what brought you here? The law don't change and it don't pass away. And truth don't change and don't pass away. Pay attention to what the Creator set up and I'm telling you, we'll be better off. So let's look at this again. When they have unabridged dictionaries, they will also give you the etymology of a word and give you a rough history of it. So the Europeans also know that their religiousized Negroes won't read, and if they do see it, it's not according to their beliefs, that they will cast their own children into darkness, lovingly and willingly. But then they'll set up nigger organizations to so-called save them, fund them to the tunes of millions of dollars a year. They have no legislative power, they have no judicial power, they have no executive power, and they talk about preserving or protecting the people's right. That's not government, that's fraud. Do you understand? Constitutions are set up in governments to protect the existing birthrights of the people, which are called inalienable rights, meaning having no tie to government. Government's established to protect it. It's not subordinate to government. It's not transferable. And if government power is used to take it, they are operating in supreme violation of law. So let's go right underneath this same black, right, in the dictionary, and it says a compound word. We know children, let's go back to children's lessons. A compound word is two or more words put together to make another word, right? So it has right here in the dictionary, black more. And it has the part of speech right under it. Next to it says noun. And it says a black person, man or woman, Negro. Then it has in italics, black in small case, plus, then it got more capitalized. There's identity right there in the dictionary. It was never really hidden. You tell these people they're Moors, they say, what religion is that? They are so asleep. The sorcerers did a good job. And we're battling sorcerers. Of course, if we come out talking that way from the door, you'd think we're out to lunch. You understand? People, it's sort of like our arrogance, our poisonous and toxic self-righteousness has cursed us for quite a few generations. We got to fix it. One of the issues is when you begin to really wake up, every time a Moor wakes up, you can't become what you already are. What happens, you have Moors who are unconscious, and then you have Moors who are conscious to different degrees. You know, just like the sun comes up and, you know, casts shadows, different times of the day when it's high noon, you know, lights on everything. But different people are different degrees of understanding. And so therefore, when they look at this Moorish Divine National Movement, most people, for a misunderstanding, look at it as a religious movement because religion is mentioned once in a while. It's only to turn you back to your creeds so you can understand that religion was also used to enslave people. So you got to know what's happening so you know how to get out of this mess. So you know when someone's teaching you divine principles that ascends you or that assist you in your ascension, and people are using it just to enslave you or get your lunch money. And so you can tell the difference. It's sort of like can you know the positive if you don't know the negative? In physics, in reality, in atomic structure, in the quark, etc. Is there anything that has a front that doesn't have a back? So that's a reality, am I correct? So the United States, this government that we set up, and I also want you to come up and assist, and you too, brother, and any sisters, I prefer sisters too, if you have anything to say to add to this, because I want you to understand this is a theme of understanding so that you can learn to protect your birthright, because in not too long, not too much a distant future, I'm going to put out a letter to the governor and the president, but I'm going to wait, see where the people are. And it's going to be an open letter to bring them back to the law, give them an opportunity, because they can keep on playing dumb they want with this crap, because we know what's up and they know what's up. Problem is people don't know what's up. But Moors have to stand up. Moors who have their birthright have to stand up, because we have been lax in our responsibility of standing as representative government. You understand? United States Republic, North America, is the only government on the planet that has a dual seal. Dual means two. You know it, but I'm saying it anyhow. That means it has a front and a back, an obverse and a reverse. Obverse means principle, or the principal side. And the principal side of the Great Seal is that pyramid that you see. And that pyramid belongs to you. It's been silent because you've been silent. Drew Ali stood up and declared, I do declare, and he brought a little brother and a little sister and brought them before the adults and say, I now do declare that you are a nation. Brought them back to their consciousness. It's not new. Brought them back to the consciousness is new. The fact is not new. The fact is ancient. You cannot be other than who your ancient mothers and fathers are. I don't care how much you fake it and how many generations you pass that fraud down on your babies. All you're doing is casting them in hell. Now you have a responsibility to get them out of this hell. And you're going to do it with knowledge and wisdom. You're not going to do it with no beliefs and no feelings. United States is the only government on the planet that has a dual seal. They both belong to you. However, this is the superior power. They separated the eye from it in their symbolism because your head is separated from your body. Your mind is separated from your forefathers. On here, it is reattached. That's because the consciousness is back. Problem is, it only exists with a few. It's got to exist with many now. Because this is how you're going to save this nation. And this is how you're going to save your babies. If you don't want it, give them a chance. But we're going to give you some keys on how to do it. Don't you ever think that people in government do not understand this. They do. They know it, and they know it very well. They know it better than you'll ever know it. That's how they've been ruling. That's how they've been governing you. That's what their power is. Their power ain't, they really don't like us, and that's why they're powerful. No, they don't. They're powerful because they know you better than you know yourself. They're powerful because they're ruling with knowledge, not dealing with emotions or some beliefs. They feed beliefs to the masses to keep you busy. Give you a God this week to worship and give you another God this week to worship. And they do it from all the branches, whether it's from Islam, whether it's from Christianity, whether it's from Judaism, Buddhism, etc. And they've all been used to enslave the masses. Now that's the truth. Whether you can handle that or not, I'm not going to argue the point. But our condition is your proof. If you can't deal with the truth of your condition, you can't deal with reality. And you can't love your brothers and sisters you see every day. Don't tell me about some Allah that you love, because I ain't hearing it. You better translate what you think you know into real life and make it good for the babies, even if it ain't good for us. Back to point. There's methods to it. Do you know what a suit is? Hit it. Open. The floor is open. What is a suit? What's a suit, Brother Abdullah? Black's Law Dictionary. So they'll understand. Make it very clear. Brother Sabir, you yourself, you got the book. You got the book, brother. I'm going to remind you when the brother informs you what a suit is. Did you know that traffic tickets are a suit? Are you aware of that? Who was not aware that a traffic ticket is a suit? Now you know. And tell everybody else. Asiatics and Europeans, a traffic ticket is a suit. Judge ain't going to tell you that. And whenever you're in court for a ticket, you understand, which says summons, etc., that's a summons to a suit because you're being sued by the corporate state. And a suit is not valid if you don't face your accuser. And anything they demand of you over $20, you have a right to a jury trial, and you have a right not to waive it. And traffic court is not constitutional because there's only two courts that's established in our Constitution, and that is a criminal court and a civil court. A civil case cannot be tried in a criminal court, and a criminal case cannot be tried in a civil court. Where did traffic court come from? It was to stop your movement. They're on-land passports. That's what the license is. And truthfully, it only applies to commercial vehicles. Are you commercial? Are you commerce? Are you chattel? Or are you a natural person? See how they stole your rights and sold it back to you as a privilege under false law, and then enforced that contract as a suit that you broke their law, which is color, of traveling on your land that they're charging you for unconstitutionally. That's why they can only file a traffic case in criminality. So traffic courts are really listed as crimes, which is a conflict of interest right there. This is giving you something to think about so you can start protecting your rights. You understand? All right? These are thoughts. I'm going to put some stuff in the paper later on, give you some procedures on how to tie a court up when you get in there with traffic tickets. We're not going to deal with it right now. I'm throwing it out there because I want your brain rolling. Because you're going to have to start protecting yourself. The greater power will be when you do it collectively on a class action principle. But the same principles apply because that's why our Constitution was in place. That's why we put it there, because there's divine law behind it. But you must know yourself in order to know that you're the law. They're not government, you're the government. And this is not a democracy, this is a republic. And without representation, you're outside of government principles. Understand that. What you saying, all right?
Getting the book back.
All right? All right? Keep that in mind. All right, here you go. Here you go. Here you go. Check down until you get to the category. Now, basically, I'm going to tell you this. A suit is basically a series of writs that are put, that means anything written. Public announcement, and remember, and this is what everybody must understand, all suits, wrong concept, get it straight, are not in a courtroom. Do you understand that? Read it, brother. You got it?
Yeah. It's a long proceeding in the court of law of chancery in which the plaintiff demands recovery of a right and the redress of a wrong. The term rarely applied to criminal prosecution.
A recovery of a right. You hear what that says? A recovery. So that means to recover something, that means something that was taken away. A violation of right or an inalienable right is the foundation basically of all suits, because that's the only way a tort can happen. In other words, they have to impose upon you outside of a issue of jurisdiction or issue of their power or right upon yours. And a suit in its nature is the reclaiming or the public announcement or the processes by which you're reclaiming that right or regress concerning that right. All right? When they give you a ticket, that's a suit. What is happening is the corporate, municipality, etc. is suing you. Why are they suing you? They accuse you of a crime. So traffic court is really a criminal court. In order for a criminal court to really be properly structured, there has to be time. See, because you got criminal and you got civil. One's a fine and one's time. If you committed a crime, you're supposed to be doing some time. Ain't no fine.
Well, I have some brothers right now that for tickets, they've been serving some jail right now because of that.
Do you know why? There's multiple reasons why. What are their names? Are they property or are they free men?
They're free people, but the system, they violated you because
Did they address the courts? Well, let me explain this to you. A couple years ago, and there's my brother-in-law right there, and he'll tell you. I would not submit. They arrested me for tickets. You understand? I think I had, 34 tickets, 8 contempts of court, whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, a whole bunch of stuff, and they put a rubber band around, this is yours. You know, type thing. They made a deal with me that I could go home if I make a plea. Of course, I'm working on principle, I ain't having it. I said, nope, no deals. Take me to court, because I'm going to kick your key stores. So they wouldn't take me to court. Am I right or wrong? They held me, figured, well, they're going to let them go home because they got the body. And habeas corpus technically been suspended since, the Trading with the Enemies Act, 1933. So they have not been operating constitutionally anyway. Of course, I know that, but I'm just saying. So habeas corpus is suspended, so they figured, well, they got me, right? So Moors would call from all over the country. They call from California, everywhere. Call from the islands. I'm going to send some money for Brother Todd. Get him out of jail. Don't send me a penny. Not a penny. Because I'm fighting on principle, because it's for the generations after, not for the moment. Because I could have went and got my car and made a deal with them and I'd been home. See, but then I would have capitulated. That's acquiescence. Then I'd still been obligated. So if you're out here, out of jail, you're still in jail because they come get you and still hold you to those phony contracts. At any rate, they took me what they took me to finally, because I wouldn't capitulate. And then I also started teaching Europeans while I was in there, and I started teaching Asiatics. And so I was holding classes, teaching them issues. I also had a petition going around in the POW camp and sent it to Kofi Annan, holding me to his obligations, right? So about 2 days, 3 or 4 days, something like that later, the captains came down and they asked the sergeant, because they had shifts. And so they came and got me out and they said, what is it you want, right? And I said, you got a law library down there. You got all these guys going to this law library, and all I see is directories to lawyers. I said, they're not the law. I said, you're denying everybody here the right, because people start complaining and putting in request slips. There was blue request slips. So they say, well, what do you want? I said, I want some legitimate law books down here, USC codes. I want to see Constitution down here, etc. All right. That didn't happen, but it happened about a week or so. Then they started bringing law books down on that floor. And what they don't do, they don't let you in part of the POW camp to another part. So they started taking me upstairs. They called me out, and I'd be in the hall, drink my little oodles and noodles, and everybody else be locked up. And then they gave me tools and stuff, because they knew my family's barbers too. So I was out there cutting hair, and I cut the Europeans' hair and the Asiatics' hair, and I'd be teaching them, right? So it got to the point whenever they would have a dispute, they would come down and ask me what my opinion was on the dispute. put me in a position to determine who stayed where and stuff like that, trying to play me. You understand? Trying to give me house power type thing. Yeah, I know the game. Anyhow, still wouldn't make no deals. Anyway, when I did go to traffic court, they wouldn't take me to court because I was Audubon, Woodland, everywhere. Anyhow, so I had this TV, and they took me to they called the video court. So I went down there, and the judge was down there talking about Tarik, babe, we have these matters of these tickets, Audubon. They were dealing with sections at a time. I said, oh, excuse me, Your Honor, who? I don't know your name. Will you state your name and your delegated authority, which I don't see because you're on TV. Furthermore, I don't see a pettit jury. I don't see a jury of my own national peers. I don't see any paper before me declaring that I have a contract with you or the corporation that you represent. Furthermore, in order for us to be of the same nation, it has to be juristic. I have a nationality card. Do you? Well, we'll talk later. Tickets disappeared. You understand what I'm saying? So they held me on the other ones. Woodland. And so I put a request in, take me to court. You take me to court. You know, that type of thing. Nice, but take me to court. So they finally took me to Woodland, and they had a whole bunch of guys in the sheriff's van. They put us in the sheriff's van, took us to Woodland, dropped me off first, and took these other guys to Cherry Hill. So I'm in there, sitting down, chilling. It was cold in there, too. I was chilling. So the guy came down, and I looked out between the bars because you could see right around, you know, to the side, and I could see the stuff coming up through the copy machine, and I could see the Zodiac Constitution coming up, right? So they had already called to Washington. So this guy, I forget his name, was somebody. I didn't even try to remember his name. He came back there and he had paperwork and something about, well, the judge sent me down there. I'm the public defender, David somebody. I said, first of all, what are you doing with that national constitution? You have no authority to even handle it. Furthermore, I want to see your nationality card. I don't want to see you public nothing. Because the only public law is the Constitution. Do you have one with you? And if you don't talk to me, foreigner. Now you go tell that magistrate who's claiming to be a judge that. So, oh, you can't go like that. I said, I don't think we have anything to talk about, do we? So he went up, he said, I'll be right back. So he went up there, I was down there another 20 minutes or half an hour. It was killing time. I know he wouldn't, whatever. Anyway, I never made the court. Never made the court. They went back to Cherry Hill, got these other guys, came back, got me, took me right back to jail. Never went to court, but those tickets disappeared. They brought me to Audubon. Same situation, called the case up, and I said, there is no case. And he had this woman who was a public defender who's going to put her on me. I guess they're going to try something new now, right? So I was very respectful to her. I said, you have a nationality card? Do you have delegation of authority order? And do you have a constitution? Because everything else you got doesn't count. Before you can argue a case, I also want to see the injured party. Who is it? Now, the state of New Jersey is a fiction, and it can't talk. Now, are you a representative of that state? Are you elected? Then what are you talking to me for? Then they had me sitting down again, you know, because they brought me up and set me back down when I wasn't cooperating, as they said. So they brought me back up, just started talking stuff. I said, first of all, I don't have a contract with you. I want to see a delegation of authority order. And you know what happens if you supersede your authority? You know what the Supreme Court has to say about that? Magistrate. And I said, furthermore, are you going to demand anything from me relative to my liberty, money, etc.? If you plan to, you better verify it. Because I don't think anybody here has any lawful money. Now, are you willing to take Federal Reserve notes? For the record. And I want a copy of the transcripts, too. I know you don't have one in here, but you better get some somewhere. Because without transcripts, you're denying me an appeal. An appeal can't happen without transcripts. And traffic court don't have transcripts. Therefore, you're in violation. It's a fraud. You know it, and I know it too. Tore the tickets up and said, go home. They didn't take me home. They took me back to jail. So they was talking stuff, and I was teaching Europeans and I was teaching Asiatics, and it was going on and on. And people really started getting pretty wise. You know, people started following. It was a guy named, what's it, Francois that came to Roundtable. There was a guy in there, Francois. His name was Francois. He had about 3 or 4 lawyers that pretty much ate up his finance. He's a car dealer down in Atco. And the township wanted his property and stuff like that. They was writing all kinds of citations on him and everything because they really just wanted the property. Anyway, he had all kinds of lawyers fighting and all this crap like that. They took thousands of dollars from him. At any rate, and the IRS was on him, the whole crap, you know, the whole routine. So he was in there. They had, at this time, he had 11 months. They gave him 11 months, and they had a $6,000 fine. His daughter or somebody was staying at the house. They was messing with his money, whatever. But he was pretty much in a mess. Lawyers come up there, see him, everything. So what I did, I started writing pre-statements for anybody that goes to the court, whether it was for support, whether for tickets, etc. They closed the court down for a month. I put a request to go to court. I thought I was going to court. They threw me out. So I'm standing out there on Maple Boulevard looking like an orphan. They didn't take me to court. They threw me out because they recognized that I wasn't going to deal with it. But the point that I'm making is because I understand what his obligations are. And it's like this. From their position, I understand that it's intimidation. And, you know, like if you're either going to stand for your rights or you're not. If I capitulate for a lot of people that I've been teaching for years. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I'm going to take it. It's because we're at war. Do you understand? But I beat their keisters. No contempt of court. You understand? All those tickets disappeared. Now, to some people, they say, well, I wouldn't have paid that price. I'm operating on principle. But the point of it is, if more people know their rights and stand on them, they wouldn't be able to target our people in communities and profile them and get away with it. Now, the other deal is, I want to make this point to you. When they cause you economic harm, and a lot of things I didn't do as far as personal suit because I already know the courts are colorable and I didn't want to distract because I was dealing with too many people. I didn't want to put my energy with that for my personal self. Do you understand what I'm saying? Trying to encourage the Moors to do a class action suit where they can't bury it. Because see, you get wins, and just like if you get wins like that, they'll bury it. You're not going to go to the records and find that. They'll bury it because you're not going to go to the court records and find that. And most times, like if I go into court, they'll clear the court so the people don't hear. Do you understand what I'm saying? So the deal is, for every Moor, whenever you go to court, don't go there to fight for yourself. Go there to teach the people. Go there with that as a mission. Do not do it for yourself. Do it for someone else. Do you understand? I'm serious. Never fight the birthright fight for yourself. Fight it for others. Fight it for the people, the man that's sitting in the corner whose family is destroyed because he thinks that he broke the law, not knowing that that judge, that prosecutor, and that lawyer that he hired are criminals. This is why Jefferson, minister plenipotentiary, in concert with the Moors who taught him, warned you all, you now have a republic if you're willing to keep it. That's why George Washington told you the same thing. What happened? We also had knights that were still claiming to be citizens of the republic, but for the purpose to subvert isonomy. Then we had Moors who capitulated, Moranos, you understand, who capitulated and sold themselves out, and to prove themselves good Christians for the Roman nations, were doing everything they could to undermine the government and to sell their own people out. It is these two bodies that have undermined our great Constitution. And now most of us, people today, don't even know that Constitution is yours, thinking that it belongs to the European sons. And then mentally and civically disconnect yourself from it, think you're disconnecting yourself from his abuses, when actually that Constitution was set in place to protect you. That's why Article 6 in that Constitution says and declares all debts and contracts engaged in before the adoption of this Constitution shall be the supreme law of the land, and every judge of every state are obligated by oath to uphold that Constitution, and any laws of any states to the contrary notwithstanding. But now, how do they protect themselves with their criminality in government from that Constitution that puts them in check? By getting you to agree that you're Negro, black, or colored, Afro-American, anything but who you really are, being a founder of this government. That's where your problem is. And so you have no standing at law because a non-human being or a person bearing property titles cannot enforce the de jure law of the land. You don't have the political power to do it. You don't have the authority to do it. As a matter of fact, he don't have the authority to act on that Constitution. That's why they have to have civil rights issues for Negroes. What you see Drew Ali said in here, the 14th, 15th Amendment would not be necessary. That's where they made provision for their property to be counted in the votes for those who own them. So when you vote in Smith, Jones, and Johnson, it belongs to Smith, Jones, and Johnson. The state's job is to make sure the benefit goes to Smith, Jones, and Johnson in the suburbs. And then if your vote has too much influence and they don't want it, you know what they can do? Lawfully and legally, stand right here in front of your face, take Negro votes, tear them up visually, put them in the trash can to change the vote, and there's no legal or lawful proceeding other than protest that can change it. And you be sitting around talking about this prejudice and everything. Why? Because those people who cast those ballots committed fraud. And fraud has no statute of limitations. Check it in any law book on the planet. And as long as you've been transacting business in European alien names, you've been committing fraud. Therefore, they can do stuff to you, and there's no consequence to them other than protest. This is the reason why they had to release those cops after they pacified the people, after they tried to kick Rodney King to China. Why? First, because he claimed to be Rodney King. Seems totally irrelevant, doesn't it? But from a law perspective, he's property. And the state corporations have an obligation to their citizens first. You understand what I'm saying? And who would ever think of that? You're thinking about what's fair, what's unfair, this is violence, abuse of power. They'll lock you up for kicking a dog, won't they? They locked them up for kicking Rodney King after they went through a whole bunch of stuff. Then as soon as the people settled down, about 2 months, they, exonerated them, threw them out of jail. But it satisfied the natives, didn't it? For 2 minutes. Do you understand what I'm saying? Of course, they burnt the city down, but I'm just saying that's the real deal. You know, with us, you know, you kill our babies and everything, we look for something to pray to, tie some ribbons around someplace and march. And then these are the same, remember, these are the same people that go to Vietnam, go to Korea, etc., kill women and children that have never done nothing to them, never touched them, would feed you a bowl of rice because they're your blood and brother. You go murder them, then you come back here and start some NACP, some fart, push, pull, jump, loot, and fund them to the tune of billions of dollars, and all these guys that lead them are preachers and masons and know the truth about you. And got a fez in their closet. And they got an oath to Rome not to reveal those secrets to you about your great seal, your part in this great government. And you sit around and complain, you can fund them, but you won't fund things that support you. And the whole world disrespects you for that. You need to understand how the rest of the world views us. The civilized people of the world, even Asiatics from the islands, etc., who don't dishonor their mothers and their fathers. And you wonder why they come here and act like this with you, although they deal with you. Or they'll set up shop in your neighborhoods and make a living. Why? Because you so quickly give up your birthright. You make a lot of finance, but you don't possess the power or the wealth to hold it or to regulate it. You don't even know what money is. That's why they got you fooled, just like they don't even know who you are. And I'm talking us plural. That's why they got you fooled. So the Moorish Divine and National Movement was to set up to correct these misconcepts, to bring you back into the constitutional fold of government, to teach you back those principles which are necessary to bring you back into civilized society and have recourse and regress in the grievances with the knights who have abused you and the daughters of the American Revolution and the Ku Klux Klan, etc., and the Knights of Columbus who have taken over your government and have subverted it. And you run around talking about prejudice, a fiction. So you have little babies, back to a baby's lesson. You have little babies, they'll take them to school, right? And they'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. Remember, these are children. They say, I'll pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Go right home and their parents will lie to them, tell them it's a democracy. And then send them to go fight wars for the private corporations that the Congress sold their delegated authority to because you playing colored people. That's why they're able to enforce color law, because we've been colored. And colored means fake, frauds, phonies. Don't want the truth because it's too stern. Don't want to correct nothing because it violates my belief in God right now. Full of crap. It's the truth. And we need to stop being arrogant. Right. We need to stop being self-righteous. We need to stop being so hateful. We need to stop being so vicious in our mentality with each other. And we need to understand our responsibility in society. And that there's nations on this planet. They're not crayons. They have national standards. Respect them for that. You have a national standard. Respect yourself and go back and get it. Until you do, you will be rejected by the rest of the world, and you have no standing in law, no judicio standi in courts. So issues in setting lawsuits. We know that we've been branded, although we don't accept that truth. That is the truth, but we don't accept it. And so we keep on transacting business in our God's name. Now the Negro God is, they call him white man. No, and don't blame the Europeans, because you lied on him. Just because the sorcerer set that up, that don't mean you have to accept that pact. You don't have to accept the pact. You don't have to be a liar because the father of a lie gave you a lie. You know that they're European sons. Respect them and don't call them out their name just like you would want somebody called out your name. Give them the same consideration that you would want from them. Just because they're seizing advantage of your dead carcass, wouldn't a vulture seize advantage of a dead carcass? Isn't that, huh? Oh, if you choose to be dead, and black according to science means death, don't the vultures have a right to light on your carcass? So, although those bites might hurt, you can't blame a vulture for lighting on a dead carcass. And if we're unwilling to honor our mothers and our fathers, then whose charge is that? Is that our charge or is that his charge? Let us say this. If you ask the average child in elementary school today, and particularly even a few generations back, how did your family become known as Smith? They will tell you. Either, oh, that's my grandma's name, or my grandma's side, or my grandpa's name. And you ask them, well, where did they get it from? Oh, they got that from the slave master, which means they're not ignorant. Which means they knew the truth. They did nothing to correct it, did they? That's a contract. It's called acquiescence. So it automatically gives the corporate state jurisdiction, which the modern word used for the slave is called ward, W-A-R-D. Ward of the state. And state, not the land, state the corporation. Then you have boards of governors that govern all the states in the commonwealths. Their responsibility is to protect the stock, S-T-O-C-K, of the citizens. Negroes, blacks, and coloreds are stocks, starting with the birth certificate and any other contract you make with them, including the DC house. There's no one that owns property. All deeds are floating. When you go buy these houses and you think you own them, you pay them off, they're not titles, they're deeds, because you cannot possess them. What you've been calling taxes is really rent, but tax makes you feel better. And you can feel that your gods have blessed you. No, serious. Because you got to allow them their dignity so they don't rebel. I'm serious. Because, you know, it's sort of like everybody and their dog knows that the white God image is the Negro God. But the Negro has to maintain his dignity not to admit it. You can't put things in front of them that makes them see that. Because they love Jesus. They love Allah and Muhammad and Moses. Phonies. But the rest of the civilized world knows better, so they let you play your little game, put you in them nigger lines, and tax you out of your property. You can't pass nothing down to the rest of your family because the state comes and gets it. You understand what I'm saying? Now, what is tax for in any society? What is tax? Tax is a fee by apportionment that's by agreement of constitutional principles and limitations given by the people's agreement for the support socially of their society proportionally. They cannot tax your property lawfully. They can only tax services to your property. But if you don't know that Smith, Jones, and Johnson, being Asiatic, claiming European name, makes you agree that your property, you don't own it from day one. It was given, if you went with what you call cash money, paid for it, lock, stock, and barrel, don't pay taxes and watch them take it all. They can only tax you lawfully for services. They can't tax a free man's property. That's your first proof that you're not free. But that's also your punishment for not listening to what the prophet told you in 1913-14. And you didn't adhere to the law, you didn't carry it out, and now you're paying for it. Now we have to come and try to clean this mess up. Work that was already done. But we can't do it. You have to help us do it. You have to take responsibility for the enforcement of the United States Republic Constitution, which is your document, and the protections of your inalienable rights. And don't you think that them people out there have been constitutionally acting, because they have not. They don't operate by the Constitution. They operate by the Magna Carta. And the Knights of Columbus, Ku Klux Klan Oath, 1854, 1863, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, is what they've been operating on. And the Christian Black Codes of 1724, adopted from William Lynn's Principles of the Roman Empire from 1712. Adopted in all the states, 1868, after they closed the Freedmen's Bureau, which was set up to give you back these same things that are given to you right now. The Morris Divine National Movement, in some ways, is a reenactment of the Freedmen's Bureau that was closed in 1870, which was supposed to be a reacclamation of your birthright, giving you back your names, your religion, your principles, and bringing you back into the constitutional fold. And what did the politicians do? They robbed the money and closed it. That's how they enslaved you. You've been gamed. And you've been gamed by your own people who sold out, even in this movement. So you need to understand the principles. Remember this. Do not go by, oh, you like this guy, you like that woman, oh, they sound good, oh, they dress nice, oh, yeah, I like the way they talk. Bull. Principles is what you operate on. That's how you tell who's who. Because the principles are based in fundamental truths that don't change or pass away. Measure them by the truth. Deal. When you're talking jurisprudence, they'll tell you law. It ain't law. It's jurisprudence. When you measure it, and you measure anyone dealing in government, measure them by the Constitution. Don't measure them by a party. Don't measure them by what they say. Only if what they say harmonize with their limited delegated authority that we gave to them to govern your affairs. They're servants. But what they've done is made you the servant. That's the corruption. Do you understand that? So remember, whenever you sue, always sue in your proper person. I'm going to read a little bit from a suit that a brother I've been teaching over the phone for about 4 years in North Carolina instituted from to Mecklenburg. They're on the run now because really he beat them. But they're using the tags now, which we couldn't get the Moors up here to use. You understand? Because they wouldn't stay in unity. They kept trying to fight as individuals. You know what's happening. And even though many people down there are having the problems, they got it locked up. Because what they did was sue them, but they sued in their proper person. You understand? Then the cop's wife was going to the mall, stuck her card in the thing, and the stuff was there. Oh, can't do nothing. The card's dead. Start locking up their personal bank accounts. Do you understand? Start costing them money for harassing you. When they touch you, make it cost them. But what you want to do, where we want to go, is collectively, not individually. Because what they do, and I've warned many more of this over the years, don't get in the process of filing a lot of personal suits, not because you can't eventually win, because they can outweight you. Why? Because you got Negroes out here who are funding them, who don't know their birthright. Your mistake is not teaching them. That's the price that you're paying for those who even have this knowledge. You suffer for not rescuing your brother because you're your brothers and your sisters' keepers, and you have not kept them. This is divine law. Don't think it ain't. There's a divine side of this, but it ain't got nothing to do with spooky. It ain't got nothing to do with beliefs. It has to do with what is fixed in nature. She will protect her own. And she ain't playing this nigger game no more. You want to solve this problem or you're not going to be here. That's my suggestion. Because the Romans are going to carry out their mission whether you act or not. Because they have an agenda. And right now their agenda is survival. They know they're in somebody else's house. But they also know that you're asleep because you think we Indians. Yeah, we Kitawa, Nanako, Lena Lenape. My mother's side, grandma's side, Blackfoot. My father's side, Cherokee, Kitawa. But I ain't Indian, I'm Moabite. And this ain't India. India's in Asia, and I'm not confused. And Santa Claus ain't real either. And bunny rabbits don't lay chicken eggs. However, you know and I know that our people spend billions of dollars a year on their fiction because it makes them feel good, and they sell their babies out by the day. And if a prophet comes to rescue them, they'll help the Romans assassinate him and then talk about how great he was and line his picture up from Yahshua that they call Jesus, lie on him, right on up to Il Malik that they refuse to call Il Malik to say Malcolm X. Anybody who comes to rescue them, they will sell them out. Because they like to paint pictures. They like to talk about how great they was. The Harriet Tubmans, Ida B. Wells, all the rest of them. They sell them out left and right. Because they don't love their own. They're the greatest hypocrites on the planet. I suggest to you, if you're standing here and you just happen to be standing on your porch with your little kitty cat in your arm and confusion starts across the street, right? Because some cops or someone used color of law and beat up somebody who's branded Negro, right? And sick their dog on them. The dog bites them all up and all this stuff, right? Because he's the brothers that jumped his own brothers last week, whatever. I suggest that you take your cat in the house immediately so they don't see you. Don't worry about what they're doing to him. Because they will not come and get that dog. They will not mess with those cops that beat Rodney King. They'll come burn your house down. That's what Negroes do. Do you understand what I'm saying? They always injure innocent people. They love injuring innocent people that never did anything to them and have no courage to fight those who bring injury to them. That's another reason why the civilized world has no respect for people who are branded Negro, black, and colored, because they know they're savages. But they also know they're not going to say it to you to your face because you're going to might burn their stuff down. But they will set up shop and make living off you because you give up your birthright easily. And then going to tell them what Jesus wants. And then put them up in the grand houses that you build as a Roman, as a European, when you know he had dreadlocks. Moabite Canaanite blood. Look just like you and me. And Moabite is the ancient name for Moors, your same bloodline that you deny. And we are them Jews too. And not them Yiddish who are claiming to be Jews but are not. We just don't use it because he's using it. So all of this thing has to be corrected, and is not what you think it is. This is an economic, political, social dilemma that you're going to have to fix. And if you don't fix it, don't worry, everything that you work for will fail. Whether it's business, economics, your personal relationships, etc. Because Allah, and Allah is feminine, not masculine, is unpleased and is set in force for our destruction unless we fix it consciously. For now, that's all I have to say, and I'd like to bring someone else up, Brother Abdullah, to assist in the work. And I also want to make one more point while you're getting prepared. And this remind Moors of some points you may not recognize right now, but I'm going to make this point anyway. See these questionnaires? Noble Drew Ali, founder. Noble Drew Ali reincarnated. Period of time between 1929 and 1934. On here, it will say Noble Drew Ali, right? And this is the authority that many of you are familiar with. And it'll say Moorish Holy Temple of Science, adopted as its corporate name, Moorish Science Temple of America. See that? Notice here it says Moorish Science Temple of America, adopted as corporate name, Moorish Science Temple of America, oxymoron. Just keep that in mind. That has to do with the treachery within. All right? We'll deal with that in the paper later on. But these are keys that you must look at. What you're doing and the consciousness that you're being brought to is not just some little pocket. What you're dealing with deals with world governments. Though we may be low-key and down to earth with this thing, everything that you do relative to this consciousness and these concepts is affecting the entire globe. Don't you ever think that governments are not watching what we're doing. Don't you ever think that what we're doing does not affect not just this government, governments, period. And in fact, I'm going to tell you another secret. Nations is a fiction. Because there's only one. And that's the real truth. That's what it's ultimately going to come to. And you will have one world government and new world order. Deal that you got going on is the sorcerers think they're going to take over. And everything they're building to eliminate you, they're building for you. Now they can put that in the dossier. Peace. Come on, bro.
Islam. Brother Abdullah Iltani Mosi Bey. I'm going to expand on some points in the Prophet's warning, divine warning by the Prophet for all nations that Brother Taj read earlier. I'm going to elaborate on more. So I'm going to read some excerpts and relate them. So you return back to the centerfold. The first paragraph. The citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all one family bearing one free national name. Now, the United States Republic of North America has a national name. Does anyone know the national name of the United States Republic of North America? It's a Moorish nation. The national name has been Masonically buried. And often said earlier, the United States has a dual national seal. And most oftentimes people will look at the United States of Republic of North America and the Moorish nation, and I see them as one. United States of Mexico. You know, that's the United States of Mexico. In fact, if you look at any coins they'll say Estados Unidos Mexicanos. The national name is Mexico. United States of Brazil. The national name is Brazil. So, and what they'll do, and they'll use the word U.S., U.S., which is the colorable government. And most people think that the United States spelled out and U.S. are the same. U.S. is the colorable government that has subverted the United States Republic, North America. And when they push the U.S., which is the U.S. democracy, they are in fact subverters of the United States Republic of North America and a violation of the Constitution. They are enemies. So anyone who does not push the Republic is an enemy to this Constitution. And most people, most of the officials are in Congress, Senate, and the House are criminals and are enemies to the United States Republic because they wear nice suits, got nice ties on. You know, most people think they're legitimate, and they're not. So, another point. So, go back there. The one free national name refers to the Moorish nation. That is the free national name of this United States Republic. Continuing. Duali, it says, it is a sin, and it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and to cling to the names and the principles that allude to slavery. He emphasized there the importance of constitutional principles. And as I was talking to a brother earlier, about a half hour ago, the Moorish Divine National Movement, the heart of it is the constitutional principles, bringing our people back into the constitutional fold of government. And those who are not pushing constitutional principles or teaching them are not teaching the Moorish Divine National Movement. They may say the name Moorish Divine National Movement, but they're not talking constitutional principles. They're not talking about the Moorish Divine National Movement. That is the heart of the movement, bringing our people back into the constitutional fold of government. So my whole purpose is here is to have you really examine Duali, this document here, this divine warning that Duali has, and not just read it, but really absorb what it's really saying. And that this is the driving force, this is the brain of the Moorish Divine National Movement. And to not push this is to not to push the Moorish Divine National Movement. Continuing. I, the prophet, was prepared by great God of Allah to warn my people to repent from their sinful ways. You all know what the sinful ways is, the violating constitutional laws. And Duali on the cover, on the front cover of the Moorish of the Holy Quran says, to free my people from their sinful ways. And we already know what the sinful ways is, being outside the constitutional fold of government. So Siem Bey is very instrumental in following Duali's instructions. He understood that the plebiscite and the divine side of the movement was actually becoming silent. And Siem Bey actually pushed the national side by continuing to spread the plebiscite and teaching our people constitutional principles. And then you see Siem Bey's his clocks of destiny. He's holding up Bible, and he has the compass and squares, has astronomy, and he emphasizes constitutional principles. Siem Bey was, in doing that, he was expanding the Moorish Divine National Movement, and is not seeing that. It looks at that Siem Bey was doing something totally different. Siem Bey was expanding the Moorish Divine National Movement. Continuing. There is but one issue for them to be recognized by the government and of the governments of the earth, and it comes only through the connection of the Moorish Divine National Movement, which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all other nations of the world. So the question is, how does one connect himself or herself to the Moorish Divine National Movement? And this is where the process of nationalization comes in. And truth, those Moors who are not nationalized are in fact part of the Moorish divine national movement, because that is the issue, is to bring them back into the constitutional fold of government. So when we look at Moors, we're looking at those who are conscious of who they are and active, and those who are not active and conscious. All right, but they're all Moors, which we already. Now, Drew Ali named the Moorish movement the divine national movement, and that's very important to understand the relationship between the divine and civil law. And then the Declarations of Independence, we're going to tie this to. In the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which can have connected them with one another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. There you go. That's the Moorish divine national movement, seeing the relationship between the divine and civil law. I mean, that relationship ain't ancient. Civil law is rooted in divine law. And I was having a discussion with one of my co-workers about 2 days ago, and he deals with metaphysical principles of cause and effect, gender, duality. But what he did not recognize is that civil law is rooted in divine law, and had to explain to him, because he was disconnecting himself from the Constitution. He said he didn't want to do anything to do with, politics, and, I just want to deal with myself, and I just want to deal with the divine principles. I said to you, brother, and I mentioned to him the importance of recognizing that those divine principles are rooted in the civil law. It's very, very important. And I've read the Declaration of Independence, the first section, and showed him the phrase laws of nature, nature's God. And so he started to understand that, and I mentioned to him that, gave him an example. You and I are talking right now. We are forming a contract. You're allowing me into your aura. I'll use that word because he's on that level. I say, you're allowing me into your aura. I'm allowing you into my aura. All right? By my free will. And you allow me into your aura by your free will. That's a contract. So now let's expand that on a larger level. Deal with a larger body of people. That's what the Constitution is. So when I broke it down that way to him, he began to recognize the relationship between the divine and civil, whereas before he didn't want to have nothing to do with it. All right? So that's very important to understand, because you may have some people who are on the metaphysical level but disconnect the civil side. Continuing. You who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know law in the city hall and among the officials in your government, and ask them under an intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply, for they are glad to see me to bring you out of darkness and into the light. Money doesn't make the man. It is free national standards and power that makes a man and nation. Now, the wealth of all national governments, gold and silver and commerce, belong to the citizens alone and without your national citizenship, by name and principle. By name and principle. So that goes back to nationality. And Drew Ali mentions that here and pushes that, and going back to the national name of the United States being the Moorish nation. Continuing, I love my people and I desire their unity and mind back to their own free national and divine standard, because day by day they have been violating the national and constitutional laws of their government by clinging to names and principles that are unconstitutional. All right. Now, constitutional principles are fundamental, very important. And one thing that has not been taught in the Moorish Science Temple is constitutional principles. The Moorish Divine Constitution, Divine and National Constitution bylaws of the Moorish Science Temple of America states the phrase part and partial, which is in Act 4 and also in Act 7. The Moorish Divine French Constitution and bylaws of the Moorish Moorish Holy Temple of Science. I'm rushing, let me take my time. Moorish Holy Temple of Science uses the phrase part and parcel, and that was done by design. It was deliberate, and was to take the people's consciousness that they are part and parcel of this said government, meaning that they are the founders and constructors of this government, and that we are not naturalized citizens. We are natural-born citizens of the United States Republic of North America. So that's we're going to put that in the paper next time, Taj. Both constitutions and bylaws right in the paper, so people can see for themselves, the corruption. Even though you mentioned that in your article. What I'm trying to do is not repeat what you said. I'm going over some things that you said, and that's what I'm trying to expand on. Because actually, you touch a lot of parts of my lesson. All right. So we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. This is in the section of the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And Noble Drew Ali said, "Come all ye Asiatics of North America and hear the truth about your nationality and birthright. Birthright and inalienable rights are synonymous." Drew Ali understood these principles. And he also, as I said before, the Moorish Divine National Movement is for the Europeans as well. And that's to enforce the Constitution, which has not been enforced. And as you said, Todd said earlier, you have a culpable government that is ruling, and that is called the U.S. And not to be confused with the United States spelled out. So understand, I was speaking to a brother earlier about the distinction and making it very clear. Because one of the comments was that the United States spelled out is colorable, and that is the United States. That is the de jure government. That is not colorable. The U.S. U.S. is colorable. And what I do oftentimes, what you'll see on the applications, is U.S. citizen. And what I do is I create a box. And I put citizen of the United States Republic, North America. And I check that box off. So the only time you see that, just be cognizant of that. You'll often see that U.S. citizen. All right? And so that's very important. Explaining, I'm going to break this down a little bit. On the questionnaire, Drew Ali has a woman, and humanity is written on her womb. And this symbolizes our economic lifeline. The Moorish Fez symbolizes our nativity, our Moorish nativity. The womb of woman, the navel, the umbilical cord, the placenta, 360 strings, 3 plus 6 plus 0, it's 9. 9 convict moons that it took this form to manifest in my mother's womb. I am Mason because I am a son of a mother. I am Muslim because I am manifest man, muscles, tissues, and bones. Manifest in the womb of woman in 9 months, Muslim. All right? So we make it very clear that any man born of a woman is a Mason. And what they've done is take that and apply it only to those who are members of a lodge. So that's what makes you a Mason. So if you deny your nationality and your nativity, you have no rights to resources, and therefore you are property. And this is, as we said earlier, this is the problem that we're facing. Another point, just trying to see where you didn't touch, so I won't be repetitive. The 14th and 15th Amendments, which are unconstitutional. And I said we are part and parcel of their separate government. We are natural born citizens. And Nuz Ali said that there's no need for 14th, 15th Amendment. And he mentioned here, and at the time, 1865, that the free national constitutional law that was in force since 1774 declared all men equal and free. That's a sodomy. That's the symbol, compass and square. Juali implied a lot of things in here. So what I'm doing is trying to bring them out. He implied sodomy when he said here, equal and free. And if all men are declared by the free national constitution to be free and equal, since the constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th, 15th Amendment. That's the sodomy, which means iso, which is a Greek word, which means equal. Nom, which means law, equal rights, equal justice in a social society for all men. That's a sodomy. Juali was a lawman. He was bringing us back into the law. And by bringing us back into the law, we're going to be commanding that the Europeans be brought back into the law. But however, we're not in the law. It's like, do you know offsetting penalty? Offsetting penalty in football is when an offensive player and defensive player commits a foul on the same play. That penalty is offsetting. So we're outside the law. We can't command the Europeans to be into the law. We must be into the law. All right? And this is what Ali was doing, bringing us back into the law. And by being active all over the country, we are forcing the plebiscite, which was strengthened. Now, we emphasized earlier that and suggested to you not to overly emphasize filing suits, single suits, though we're going to be doing that. Why? Because as an individual, the sovereignty is weak, but as the collective, that's where the strength is. And if you're talking constitutional principles, you're talking the national sovereignty. You're not talking the individual sovereignty, you're talking the collective sovereignty, the collective agreement, the common law of the people. So Ali was emphasizing the national sovereignty when he mentioned constitutional principles over and over and over again, all throughout this document. And this is said before, this is the heart of the movement. To not talk constitutional principles, you're not talking the Moorish national divine movement. You may be saying the word, but you're not talking it. All right? So, to bring our people back to the constitutional fold of government is the purpose of the Moorish divine national movement. So, when on Wednesdays, when I work with you sometimes, these are some of the issues that I'll be bringing up more, going more in depth. All right, and tying this relationship, and letting people know what is the Moorish National Divine Movement, and that is the Constitution, talking of constitutional principles, letting them know that it is a divine document. All right, so this is, anybody has any questions? We'll be filling questions now. I know one of the things, Taj, is that people who've been called me, wanted you to discuss specifically how to file suits. I think that was one of the impressions that they had, you know, when they came here. But I understand where you're going when you were talking fundamental principles, because without these fundamental principles, there's no way that they can have the knowledge of filing suits. All right, so can you briefly, you know, give a synopsis of, you know, filing suits?
You're going to follow in a district court. Reason not, you deal with your general state courts, etc., you know they're callable. Fact of the matter is all the courts are callable now. But what you want to do, you want to file the suits mainly to start that paper trail, because it's an indicator to the world, not only to those in this said government, but in the world, that you're making effort to make the claim. One of the reasons that weakens us in our issues of regress is that most claims that are made by our people are made in the black codes. They either call themselves blacks, Negroes, colors, etc. It has no real power at law. They'll go through emotions with you, because that's not a human being. It doesn't exist. There's no constitution that backs such people. It's a fiction. That's a fiction made up by the European nations to distinguish, like say for instance, like if you have two people standing here, say they're from Misraim, we call Egypt. So you got, say, a brother and sister here, both Misraim, and so this brother, sister, she still honors her mother and father. She's a Misraim, or Egyptian, right? There's a constitution that backs her up, recognized by the rest of the civilized world, and therefore automatically comes into both national and international law and protections. This brother over here, he's Misraim, but he comes dealing with us. He associates with us, so in order to win our favor, he starts calling himself black again, himself black too, because he's relating to our bloodline. You understand? Not understanding that that's not relative, because he thinks that black is relative to a pedigree, is relative to a classification, a code system that was created in 1779 to classify both uncivilized people and people that are outside of government or national governmental principles, who were usually what you call indentured servants or slaves that have not their mothers and their fathers' names, nor their mothers and fathers' inheritance. So therefore there's no law that backs them up, because they're a property, they're a thing that's movable, it's called chattel. So these brands were created or coined to describe that being separate from a national being, so that they can travel in society. So you may have a free man or free woman here, and you may have a slave here, but how do you keep the conflict down? The free man has a nationality, the slave thinks he's a crayon. Very simple. Are we understanding? Are we following? And see, so it doesn't ring a bell, or it doesn't create an alarm. Do you understand? So it's like, say, so a free being, a free national being would come under constitutional law protections and international law protections, whereas a colored person, Negro, would come under programs that would be issued to them under privilege from the citizens for what you call temporary recognitions. You understand what I'm saying? It'd be called civil rights issues, which would come under the 13th, 14th Amendment, which is a fraud, which makes them automatically corporate property. And so their children, offspring, are all corporate property. Dually set in motion already those procedures for you to get back to your nationality by claiming them for the public record. That's called nationalization. Ultimately, we're going to have to nationalize this nation anyway in order to save it, but that's another issue. Brother Raheem was talking on those issues earlier. So, brother. Islam, family.
Thank yourself and your son for all that knowledge you've been kicking from the Roundtable, and it's stuck with me this year. I'm for about a year and stuff, and I feel the spirit of the holy breath, and I'm high up on the square, and I feel good. Now, I learned a lot from them degrees that was given up at the Roundtable. I don't talk that much, but I'm a Mason of high degrees before I learned about them degrees. Now, with the 101s and the Masonic doctrine, they tie in all together, because with the Masonic doctrine talks about is how the three ruffians, Jubilo, Jubilo, and Jubilum, slayed the master builder, which was of King Solomon's temple, which is Grand Master Hamabith. And the Moors, or what they did to Grand Master Hamabith, they took and buried him in a shallow grave in the west. And the Moors are the masters builders of civilization. They did that to the Moors and gave them the name Negro, Black, Coward, and Ethiopian. And they're buried in the shallow grave of the west. I just want to thank y'all again because that knowledge is powerful. But the Circle 7 says the advantage of good things lie not in possession but in knowing how to use them. So we must set our souls on fire with love and holy zeal one another, knowing that we've been through a great affliction here in the wilderness of North America because a lot of our people is Christianized. They joined the Episcopalian, Pentecostal, Presbyterians of the British Army. So we got to go there and pull them back. When, like in the Masons, you grab your hand and shake the hand, right? Yeah. We got to go back and bring them to light.
Pull them up out the grave. Let me throw something out there for that point, because a lot of people don't understand what religion is. Particularly like if you try to pull a brother out of the grave because he's been what they call Christianized,
right?
They feel threatened because they think Yeshua, or who they call Jesus, was a Christian.
Right.
But I'm going to read again. Remember I mentioned to you how the Europeans take pride in saying if you want to hide something from a nigger, just put it in a book. Well, let's go again, and this will also assist you when you're helping to raise some of our people, and they get very sensitive because they think you're attacking their religion, or they think you're doing something quote unquote against God because you're telling them to get out from it.
Right.
This is key. Now, how many of you are familiar with the Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed? Anyone raise your hand? Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed. There's one. Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed. Look at the numbers of people in here, and look how many people are not familiar with that. Now take what I'm getting ready to tell you to heart, because this is a key teaching tool to redeem people. All right, from the sorcerers. They don't know that is the work of sorcerers. This work is to counter the sorcerers, but you must know it in order to counter it. All right. How many people over here have ever been to a church? Most of us have. We're quite familiar with it because we've been pretty much dominated. All right. Now let's go to. The European is so proud of himself, and I don't blame him, because he is the Negro God. So let's go into ordinary dictionary with the synopsis. You know what a synopsis is? A brief, right? So they will give you information in a brief that's indisputable, yet the people who have become believers and followers will dispute you. So let me go to their own literature. All right? Now, I'm going to read this out and use this in the future. How many of you are familiar with Nicaea? Now I'm going to read this. This is in an ordinary dictionary, and this is a brief. Listen carefully. Nicene Creed, a Christian confession of faith, adopted against the Arian heresy by the First Council of Nicaea, AD 325. What does that mean? 325 years after the assassination of Yeshua, who they branded Jesus during this council. Because his name wasn't Jesus, it was Yeshua ben Yosef. A similar creed later attributed to the Council of Constantinople, AD 381, and accepted by the Greek Church, also called Constantinopolitan and Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed, a modification of this containing a clause referring to the Holy Spirit, adopted by the Council of Toledo, AD 589, and accepted by the Anglican, Roman Catholic, and various Protestant churches. That is the foundation of what is known today as the Christian Creed. That's the foot of it. That's the rock of it. That's the foundation of it. How many people call themselves Christians don't even know the foundation upon which it is built? They're going to tell you about Jesus. So don't argue with them. Give them their own record. That is not their own. That they have adopted from the Romans who murdered him. Do you understand where I'm coming from? In other words, they worship the murderers of the Nazarene and then claim to love the Nazarene. And the Nazarene brought the zodiac and the fish. They hung him on a cross and then told him that the instrument used to lynch him was the instrument he brought from heaven in a cloud of glory. They are liars, they're hypocrites, there's no truth in them, and when they speak a lie, they speak of their own father. It is not their creed. Jesus was a Moabite, and his grandmother Ruth was a Moabite, and Boaz was a Moabite. So what can you be but Moabite? More. So use it. That's a weapon against those who try to get into the religious game and try to fight you there because they don't want to deal with the truth because it shakes the world. They don't have a foundation. It's a lie. Doesn't mean that there's no good in it. Don't misunderstand that. And it's not an attack on them. It means that if you're going to claim something, know what you're claiming. And so if I claim to be Christian, I should know the Nicene Creed. And if you don't know it, you don't know nothing about it. You're sort of like, I'm a surgeon. I operate on brains. You notice I have the sign out here. Come on in. Then they drag you out the back door walking like this. Well, if you ain't figured out yet that I can't be who I claim to be by my own works, then what else proof do you need? All you need is watch the works of the people. They show you the love. Is there love? No. There's hatred. There's slavery. There's abuse of power. And if Yahshua walked in this door now, they'd lynch him again. Thank you very much. So the Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed is Christianity. They are not Christians. They can't be Christians. It's a political system disguised as religion in order to push it on the world to conquer. And they will have a cross and a crown. And it says, in hoc signo vinces, which means in this sign we conquer. They don't hide it. But why should they? Because all we deal with is beliefs. We don't deal with facts. It's against our gods. Please. Let's save our babies.
I'd like to know where I could get that. If you can write that down for me so I can get a copy. Just
go right in the dictionary, look on the Nicene Creed, go in the law library, go to any library, any well-stocked library, look up Nicene Creed. That's all you need to do the research. They'll tell you so much about the history. It ain't nothing but a trail of blood, I'm telling you.
One second, I have to say. What I had to say, this is real quick. What you're saying about people, getting in conversation with them.
Yeah. Don't argue with them.
I've proved myself where that I don't even deal with them. When I revive, I come around Moors.
Yes. But I'm saying no.
When Moses.
Suggestion. We don't ever want to get into the thing where Moors, Great Seal Moors who deal with the law, don't deal with we's and them's in that context that's often used.
Right.
We're just as friendly to Europeans as we are to Asiatics. There's a lot of Europeans that's doing more to help fix this thing than a lot of Asiatics. Do you understand? It is the spirit that you're dealing with. Do you understand where I'm coming from? Principle. But I'm saying to you, relative to our people, because we have to be redeemed because we fell the farthest. In other words, when Drew Ali brought this message to the people of the North Gate, he came to all the people. He just came directly amongst us because we needed him the most. That does not constitute us in any particular superiority role because the movement is universal. That's so that Moors don't get arrogant and self-righteous, also think they own the prophet. You understand? Just because he's Moorish American. He came to the people. The Europeans are Muslim sons. When you go in Washington and you see the Knights of Columbus with our feathers on, Islam, that's why I did this article, excerpt from before. This was really directed to a lot of so-called Muslims, truthfully, to be honest with you. As well as to the Europeans, let them know that we know what's up. We ain't out to lunch, and we're not spooked up. that they have an obligation to uphold the law, and we are the law. This is for Moors who have the misconcept that think this is some little pocket thing that is just us, because you see just a few people that are active think that the world ain't aware of what's going on. It's just that most of the people are asleep. Many of them are asleep willingly. Do you understand? But your public suit is your activity. When the repression of your rights are affected by the corporate entities faking as government, then you do the process suit. However, it must be in propria persona. Keys. I'm going to drop this at you, but remember the Nicene Council, and that knocks all dispute out of the way. All right, that's Nicene. And it's also spelled Nicaea with the EA. And the council. And although they had about 7 councils, there's 2 major councils that they make reference to in history: ecclesiastically, historically, lawfully, canon law, etc. And that is the 325 and usually the 381. These are the 2 principles. This is when they composed up the creed that you know today as Christianity. Do you understand? Now, what they did during that period of time is they was altering the documents and the scripts that they robbed from Luxor. That's the great Moabite library on the north coast of Tamari that they call in Egypt right now, or Alexandria, that they named after Alexander the Great, who was also fighting the Moors. You understand? So Alexandria in Misraim, that you call Egypt now, of the ancient Moabite kingdom or empires, because it spanned the seas, is Luxor. The world's greatest library was situated there. Not just there, but also here in Toledo, in Ohio, here on this side. And they burned them. And they have a rule in government and in the church, and it's called Indexus Prohibitorum. As a matter of fact, that's even in the dictionary. You want to hear what it says? Now look at this. I'm showing you again how an ordinary unabridged dictionary can educate you. But the only thing that blocks you is our emotions, our beliefs, our deication, where we don't want to deal with reality. All right? Now remember that. Now this is Indexus Prohibitorum. These are fundamental things that you must understand, because when you walk into those courtrooms, don't think that it's not used, because the judges are in the concept of this information. This is not what's proceeding across the floor, but he is in the mental concept of it. When he puts on that robe, that cloak, you know what that cloak represents? Huh? It represents the authority of the sovereign. It represents the cloak of the Moors, the Abba. Just like when you put your bolero on, your boleros and your vest and your cloak and your Moorish costume, that's what it represents, the authority. Same thing with the cloaks they put in the church when they sing gospel songs. Belong to you. Same robe that the Ku Klux Klan wears when he puts on a conical hat and doesn't terrorize you with your costume from your ancient white brotherhood that's over 50,000 years old. And you be going out to lunch. And it belongs to you. Scaring you with your own stuff. The raw. Now let's go into, here you go. Remember, this is related. It may not seem to be, but remember, when you're suing, the concepts that you have in your mind are at the root of whether you walk or not. At the root of whether or not you are successful. And keep this in mind. The ultimate key to the conclusion or the superior position of the plaintiff in a suit is what? Constitutional principles. That's the ultimate test. You know, someone may acquiesce or give up early and lose, and they know they're right. Why do you think states try to keep things from hitting the Supreme Court, which is the only law, the only true court? Because they know they can't beat you. But they know they're going to go there because you're usually arguing wrong. You're usually arguing in a false jurisdiction, never challenge the jurisdiction, right? You keep calling a magistrate a judge when you ain't checked the record. And so what they get you to agree to fraud along the way, then they got you in the state's court and they just bounce you around till you're economically broke. See it? And then you start arguing how you feel, or just some case law which the attorney will try to lead you to, when you should be talking constitutional principles and stay there. You know, any what you call lawyer, they're phonies, worth their salt. You know, they bounce you around, take your lunch money, take your savings, then get your grandma's money, and then when they see you ain't got no more, they either throw you to the dogs or how much you can pay. You understand the nights. You bought your freedom. You ain't bought freedom. You bought the privilege, and then you so-called win. And then you ever notice, if you really pay attention, when they really get tired of the BS and they want to win the case, they start arguing constitutional principles. And the case either is resolved and that's it. Why don't they go there in the first place? Because they can't make money off you. Because you don't need them. You should have went there yourself. Because the Constitution is for all free national beings. But in order to use it, you must be in propria personis and juris. Most of us are not. Have we been? Most of us have been color people. Right? Huh? I'm right wrong. Huh? So we're already wrong, so we don't even have the power to challenge the jurisdiction of the magistrate who's fraudulently telling you that he's a judge. When he told you he's a judge, the first thing you should ask in a writ in the nature of discovery, because they're accusing you of something, was in that list was a DOAO, Delegation of Authority Order, where he derived his authority and what principle does he operate for. And when they start talking about get a lawyer, Bar Association asks him, is he practicing law from the bench? Is he soliciting for a private corporation, or is he upholding the Constitution, upon which he took his oath? Because I got a copy right here that says that's your first obligation. You tell me your obligation to the Bar Association, a private corporation? Is that in the Constitution? Watch him get mad and get green. And if a lawyer come up to you talking about what he's going to represent you, if he don't come with the Constitution of both the state and the federal, he ain't representing you, he's representing the court. Conflict of interest. Judge. Remember the Bar Association of England with a branch in the United States of America? Officer of the court, right? Prosecutor. Remember the Bar Association of England, branch in the United States, etc. Officer of the court. The judge, and them PDs that they keep putting on you, attorneys, etc., esquire. Remember the Bar Association, officer of the court. Does anyone here know what this phrase conflict of interest is? Do you recognize that that's a conflict of interest? It means that's a boys' network. They got a network going on when you walk in there. If you don't know anything about your nationality and your birthright, you can't get to the constitutional law because they just barred you from it, and you didn't do what? You didn't what? What did you didn't do?
You didn't reserve your right.
And you didn't declare from the door, did you? And you didn't object, did you? So you proceed, you're in the jurisdiction, aren't you? And when you're in the jurisdiction, they're also considered that they already have leave. Am I correct? Black's Law Dictionary. Black's Law Dictionary. Show you something else. And keep this in mind, because this is vital in your concepts, because this is how you're going to structure your suits. Now listen to this. In propria persona. Now this is Henry C. Black Law Dictionary, 3rd edition, and you know, those of you know who study, the 3rd edition and the 4th edition is the killers. So it's going to be hard for you to find them. If you can get them, fine. You know, you can get the 5th, 6th, and all that stuff all day long in the bookstores. And you know, if you go on the internet trying to get these, they want to roll you for a couple $100 or whatever. But if you get this third and the fourth edition, now the fourth one is green, I have them both. They are the killers. You got a lot of stuff in educate you. Hold on. Appropriate persona. Now listen to this carefully. Remember that all those who claim law, teach law, learn law, processes, all right, remember, law ain't what you think it is. The issue or the science is jurisprudence. And jurisprudence is that science which treats positive law. Outside of that, they're throwing in negative law. Catch it? That's why they just say law. And you start thinking that that means right. It don't. That means rule or policy. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you better stay in positive law, and the constitutional principle is what keeps you in positive law. So you must think on those principles. That's why Drew Ali said to you, he says, go back to that state of mind of your ancient mothers and fathers and their divine and national principles, and come back into the constitutional fold, because outside of this, you're outside of it. They can do any kind of crap to you. You don't have no means to put them in check, because the thing that puts them in check is that Constitution. That's what a DOAO is. A DOAO is a delegation of authority order that's given to, all right, you're judge guy. You're a judge guy of the state of Pearl of Africa right now, corporation, right? So guess what he has? And what you have a right to demand. I say I'm Judge Bullshitsky Dorf or somebody? Oh, no problem. I like to see your delegation of authority order, because that's the only thing that makes him legitimate. If you don't ask for it, you just waived it. He could be the janitor at Dobbins High School. Dobbins, he can be a Big Mac guy. This is weekend thing. And he's also another township. The clerk of the township. Calling himself judge. And you've never questioned him. What he's telling you, got a license, got some insurance with my boy over there. Well, I had another job, and and my mom, I had to get some food, and you're all scared and stuff, and you should straighten him right up. Oh, you see this writ in the nature of discovery? Since I'm in court, I already had it prepared. And then y'all got your copy. Get the clerk, give the man over there. And give him his, and the delegation of authority means, where's his license? Because that's the license from the people. And without it, he ain't who he say he is. But if you don't ask, he can be McDonald's cousin. He needs some money for the Poconos, and you're it. And that's what they've been doing to Negroes, blacks, and colors, because they don't know nothing about nationality and birthright, and they ain't interested. And so they keep giving up their rights, but they'll turn around and fund ANACP established by Jews who were protecting their stock. Do you understand where it comes from? It's not even like we don't have the finance to fund what's for us. We don't know priorities. We don't know what represents the de jure law and what represents color law, because we haven't studied the fundamentals of civilization. Your mothers and fathers were the founders of civilization. Study the principles. You know, we go in the history, we talk about, yeah, man, black man, he had the Songhai kingdom and empire, and then we did like, no, you can't make black retroactive, because they weren't black people. They were civilized beings. Black is a modern tag for civilized people who fell to slavery and lost their birthright. Don't confuse the two. Don't make the lie retroactive, because as soon as you do it, they already got you in law. They ain't going to argue with you. They already know you got you. Black man that's over here with Freddie Jones. And you say, yeah. Well, you already know he got you. You're in the jurisdiction whether you claim to be or not, because you're claiming a name that's not yours. You haven't what? Objected. Are correct? So what does it say here in propria persona, in one's own proper person? Dwally expressed to you all, be yourself, didn't he? Huh? Now let's look at this. In propria persona, that's a Latin legal term. And I want to get here because I want to have y'all see this while I'm reading this. in propria persona, in one's own proper person. It is a rule in pleading that pleas to the jurisdiction of the court must be, what does the word must mean? It didn't say may, does it? Must be pled in propria persona, emphasized, because, that's conditional, am I correct? Because if pleaded by an attorney, they admit the jurisdiction, as an attorney is an officer of the court, and he is presumed to plead after having obtained leave, which admits the jurisdiction. And then gives you some law case, which means if you're not in your proper person, they already got jurisdiction, so don't even talk about it. In propria persona, I-N, capital I-N, first. By itself, propria, capital P-R-O-P-R-I-A, one word. Persona, capital P-E-R-S-O-N-A. That's ancient Moorish Latin, means in one's own proper person. And the definition comes right after it, and it says, in one's own proper person. Almost sounds like an oxymoron, doesn't it? So, in one's own proper person. That's a strong emphasis. That means you must actually and factually, for the public record, for the civilization, honor your mothers and fathers, because if you don't, the court already has jurisdiction over you. You're automatically a ward of court, and they already have leaves. It's no argument. You have no argument. That's why the judge tell you, my dog didn't eat lunch this morning. Shut up! Sit down! Take that hat off! And all this stuff. You tell them, I want your DOL. Now listen to me on this. In any issue that someone makes claim against you in the court, whether they're tickets or not, delegation of authority order is vital. Writs means written documents. In the nature of discovery is your right before they can proceed. Do you understand? And any claims against you. Commanded in writing of the court and the persons. Delegation of authority order is one of the issues that you're going to talk about. I'm going to do some things in the paper later on that will give you pretty much a breakdown or an example of it. So we don't have to go too much into it right now. You'll get it, in the future. Or we'll put it in the civil letter to give you some idea of the structure and how you would present it. Now, a writ in the nature of discovery means like if I say, well, brother, I went to the bathroom, and Article 1, Section 3-501, Hartville jurisdiction says that after 6 o'clock you can't go to the bathroom. There's a fine for that. $5.50 and your lunch money for next week. Oh man, I gotta get another job. And what you should be asking, well, all right, well, where's the indictment paper? Without that, I can't proceed. And you have a right to demand it and possess it. Then, where's the jury of my own national peers? You have a right to that. Unless you waive it by not challenging it. And you put it right so it ties the court up. But don't get caught up in the trick of trying to introduce this during court session, because they'll block it. You never present documents during a court proceeding. Let the documents precede you. All right? Are we with it? Everybody? Just even with tickets. If you use some of these methods, you're going to find some of the stuff starting to disappear. All right? They're not going to tell you this. I'm telling you this. See, because they've made a whole middle class off the social problems that they've created on you. They live off of your virtues. This is one of the methods on how they do it. And I'm telling you, the appropriate persona is one of the keys of the state of mind you must be in. Don't talk suits if you're not in this state of mind, unless you're ready to give him all your lunch money and your grandma's inheritance and everything. All right?
What do you mean by let the documents proceed?
All right, like say if there's an issue before the court, and say we call you to court, this court, and we call you to court. Don't come to court before something hits this court first. In other words, paperwork with the county. Not just with that court, with the county. Hear me? Because the county is the law, not the city. You remember that, you all? All serious documents, etc., in the county. All right? The land. All right? And this is the other thing that everybody should be aware of. You know your little townships and cities and stuff like that? They do not operate off constitutional law. They operate off charters. So which means they can use that to bypass their constitutional obligations if you don't object, which they have been doing.
Everybody needs a mic. Why you need the mic so you can
See, because the county, the county is the public record. The public record. The little townships and everything is corporate record. What they have done in order to maintain slavery is that people who have acquired seats of power or authority in government, which is the supreme law, Constitution, have sold their DOAO outside of your knowledge to private interest and foreign interest in order to slave you so that you won't come and take them out, knowing that slavery still exists, because they fooled you into thinking that slavery ended in the Union State Society. So they use the authority of the United States, the power of the sovereignty, to enforce private law, which they're in violation, which is a felony. They don't operate by constitutional law, they operate by policies of the political parties that subverted the United States. They have a private contract with the American people. They don't operate with the Constitution. So when you're dealing with them, you already know that. You don't argue that with them, since you know that you've got to know how to proceed, meaning that you've got to understand that you're amongst wolves. You know, the average person, when they walk up there, they're not looking at that judge, that prosecutor, and the lawyer that they hired with their grandmom's money as partners. They're looking at this guy going to protect you from some claim. They're partners. They're in the mission to rob you. They're in the mission to subvert the Constitution. They're in the mission to bar, B-A-R, the Constitution. Because if the Constitution was in place, you wouldn't need him. And the judge's obligation is to do what? To enforce the law. And when he sees a tort or violation against the people, it is his duty to call the immediate police or even the military police, if necessary, to protect the citizens. When your rights are being violated. See how quick they enforce colorable law. If you get a ticket out there, if you parked out there a meter, see how quick they, with all the mechanisms go into a force to get that little coins for you for that colorable ticket. They're supposed to act on the same way when you're violated, without you having to file a suit. That's what government officials are for. But what they did, you all elected me, right? So you elected me as Beeble Fetzer guy of the city. So I have delegated authority. What you all should know is that there's a limit to my authority. The DOA will describe what it is. If I do anything that I do outside of good behavior, I've already violated. There is no recompense. I'm out. You don't need to vote me out. And if I don't leave, you have the right by law to come and physically remove me. That's what your real right is. Once a public official violates the Constitution in any form or matter, there is no regress. There's no I'm sorry. He's out or dead. Do you understand? See why they don't want you to know law? Huh? It ain't wait till 4 years for me to screw you some more and make partnership with Enron while they rob your pensions and all this little stuff, and then make you pay it back like Silverado Bank, what the Bush father did when his buddies in the politics, they robbed the banks, robbed your money, what you thought was your money, and then made you pay it back. Oh, you know why? Because they're not operating unconstitutionally, but they also know that we, basically, the people, is dumb or arrogant. We're so busy hating Russians that never did nothing to you. You know, the communists, they're threatening our way of life and everything, and so you all can do what you want to do. This is what we've done. They got you so busy hating other people and injuring other people that never did anything to you. This is what the U.S. does. The U.S. Let me back up a little bit so you understand what's happening. And I'm going to reemphasize what I said earlier. The U.S., which is a body of conspirators that the general public is not aware of, and it consists of, in the main part, Knights of Templar. Now the Knights of Templar are servants of the king. And subversives of the principles of isonomy, meaning that they maintain slavery by owning the governments. Do you understand where I'm coming from? Everybody clear? In other words, rather than hold you in servitude directly, which causes rebellion. You understand? If I'm standing up here like this, right, and you're impressed because I said, well, you know, I've got this stuff right here that I can just move this right up and down and I can read your mail right through your pockets. And you know, I've got this ring right here that really is a Bebel Fetzer right into your eye and I can see what's in your bank account. He's, oh man, boy, scared of him, man. Whoa, you know. And you know, when you've got your telephones and I can just signal in everywhere, that's really a tracking device, and you say, oh, wow. You know, I say, well, you know, and I got atom bomb here, right? Then I got a neutron bomb here, right? I got chemical warfare in my finger if I do like that. Oh, you're scaredy. And then I can catch you right through your phone, and you get all impressed. What they don't want the common people to recognize, that I can walk in here with straps of weapons all across here and helmets and Kevlar vests on and all of those stuff, and I can use the power or the sovereignty of government to maintain my own personal corruption, right? What they don't want you to think or recognize is that a little guy over there in the corner that you call lunch can take a 22, come up and pop me right in the middle of my head and it's all over, me and all that weight, and then y'all be trying to pick me up with all this weight and all these bombs and everything else like that. They don't want you to recognize how simple it is. Do you understand? So they build up fear. You understand? Guilt, superstition. You need to pay attention to their obligation. The Constitution is their obligation. That's not some instrument that, oh, you know, it's interesting if you all know something about it. And if you don't, oh, it's not important. Why do you think politicians don't teach the Constitution to children in schools? Because that's the document that gives them the authority to do everything that they're doing. Without the Constitution, there is no government. Once you understand that, you understand where you need to be to protect your Moorish birthright. And the Moorish birthright is to protect the Constitution and to enforce the Constitution. The abuses that you've been getting is because that document has not been enforced. It has not been enforced because you ain't been in your proper person. Y'all been busy being colored people. Do you understand where I'm from? So concept of mind, get out of it. You're not Negro, black, and colored, and you got to be that, not that, officially. That's what nationalization process is for. That's why he did it. Do you understand? These have political ramifications. So it changes your political status in the society for the record. That's number one, because it's documented now. You see what I'm saying? So that gives you a standing at law across the world. Now, do you know what to do with that? That's the next issue. Do you know how to proceed with that? Those are the parts of the information that was suppressed by the subversives, COINTELPRO, etc., that was inverted into this movement with the FBI, CIA, etc., which is really the OSS, to subvert this movement. Having the people think it's a religious movement when actually it's a movement to bring people back into the constitutional fold of government and to enforce that constitution for the protection of all the peoples. But he knew that they could not be protected as Negro, black, and colored because that's a category of a caste system. It's not human. It is not human. Does not pertain to humanity. It is outside of the human family, therefore outside the law, therefore outlaws. So what do you do with outlaws? Do whatever you please to do with them, particularly if you have power. This is the arrogance that them magistrates have been using as judges. Do you understand? Because they know the people don't have rights because they won't claim them. And then the people think that the only way they're going to get them is that if they give them to you. Governments do not give rights. Governments are established to protect existing rights. Those rights are inalienable, that is in reference to government. And the inalienable right is derivative of your birthright, which means it's non-transferable. It can't be sold to you. You can't license it. Once you understand that, hold them to it. And they're obligated when they take that oath of office to uphold that Constitution. And if you start talking about Republican Party and Democratic Party and all that kind of crap, and you start getting into their private matters because it's private policy, and you let them enforce that crap, you just gave up your birthright. This is what has happened to us. And you believe them, you keep believing them. Then they put nigger leaders out who got these fezzes on in secret, and they're usually a reverend with 33 degrees, playing dumb like he don't know what that fez is, like he don't know what that great seal is on that dollar bill. And it's right there on the dollar bill. Pull out dollar bill. Pull out dollar bill, y'all. Anybody got to pull out dollar bill? United States Republic is the only government on the planet that has a dual seal. Is everybody clear what dual means? We know it means two, but I want you need to be clear on this. Dual seal, which means two seals to the one. You fold it, you see the one in the middle, right? You fold it, you put up to the light, you'll see there's an obverse and a reverse. And you look underneath that seal with that pyramid, and you know it's not the Vatican. But they keep telling you it's a Christian government. Jefferson told you this government was not founded on Christian principles. And how many people keep talking about Jefferson? You see what I'm trying to say? How we don't pay attention? Now you see that pyramid? Look at it. Now the sun shines from the east even unto the west. And it casts a shadow on that pyramid. And so there's a shadow on the west on that pyramid. And you see an eye on top of that pyramid. But there's a violation of physics in that die cast. And that violation of physics is that the shadow continues underneath the pyramid, which is sitting on sand, which is a violation of physics. But it's in your face, and so most people don't pay attention, so they ain't worried about you seeing it. Right? And then you look at the end of that shadow of that pyramid on the earth, on that plane. See, because you got the vertical and the horizontal. Ain't that a square? Isn't that plumbing level? Man got two positions, plumbing level. Am I correct? He's either prone or he's upright. And that's what he does. That's how he goes through life. And you notice that on the left, on the right of that shadow, you see an acacia bush growing in the sand. What's acacia bush growing in the sand? But acacia also means evergreen, don't it? Evergreen means ever life, don't it? In the sand. Now let's take this eye and let's take this pyramid. And you know how to take that pyramid and then bring that light to the earth? Now keep that pyramid and print it in your eye and keep it there. Then I'm going to turn the pyramid upside down and keep that and overlap that pyramid. What do you got right there? You got hex alpha, don't you? You got hex alpha, which is your dual trine. Am I correct? Huh? Now look over that bird's head and count them 13 stars. What symbol do those 13 stars make up? Hex alpha. And that ain't Jews. Though we Jews, that ain't what you think it is. But let's look at that shadow when we bring that light to the earth. And you look underneath it and it says the Great Seal, doesn't it? Then take that and put that in front of your face and you'll see that that shadow with the acacia bush becomes a 7 in a circle, don't it? Doesn't it? You see that shadow? Huh? It becomes a 7, don't it? The reason why it violates physics, because the message and the symbology is metaphysical. Now what you got when you bring that light of Allah to the earth and you harmonize and balance that dual trine, hex alpha, you now become the master of that seal. And that's the 7th seal right in your face. They handle it every day. That's how you hide it from them. And the sorcerers boast of it. Your job is to undo the sorcerer's work. The seventh seal is yours. The great seal is yours. It's up to you to claim it. That's your political platform. That's why this whole movement exists. You don't claim this lost estate? Illuminati got it. They're claiming it until you do. They've been living off your virtues. And they ain't sitting around worshiping those spooky gods either. They just sell them to you through your nigger leaders. Nigger leaders. That keep promoting Negro, black, and color amongst you. That's what they're paid for. But when they get their 32nd degree with the Knights of Templar and their lodges, they get a certificate saying, Assalamu alaikum. And then ritualistically, they take their holy, what they call holy name, or their Muslim name, which is really their Moorish name. And they ain't got nothing to do with religion. It has to do with supreme leadership and rulership of governance. Governmental principles. And they've been ruling you, and they got that sword over your head. Because you playing sleep games. Making a pact with them while you don't honor your own mothers and fathers. And they put it right in your face, and that's a story. You know how they say? You want to hide from niggers? Put it in their face, and you spend it every day. I tell you, whenever you spend $1 from now on, never have it face up. Snap your fingers and give them the seal. All the time. Now let's go to indexus prohibitorum to let you understand, again, brother, you know, the church's position, and it's not the people. Do not charge the people because they just don't know better. You know, the whole world's deceived because of this game. I'm going to get to you. I ain't forgot you, brother. But I don't want to get too past myself. These things I'm setting you up in your mental state. This must be in your mental state when you're filing lawsuits. Because they are trained to this. Them magistrates, them judges are Masons. From a lodge perspective, we're not dealing with the natural man. You got some of them that are dealing with the principles of the Moabites. Those high civilization principles. But you have others who are in there to subvert. Do you understand?
You're talking about the conspirators of government, like the Knights of Templar. Can you elaborate on that a little more?
They're not, the Knights of Templar for the most part now use just the simple term Masons. But I must make it clear, does not mean Masons are corrupt. Mason is an institution that pretty much maintains a lot of your Moorish history. It's just coded. But many people are in the lodges for the purpose of maintaining rulership over you. They're not intending to enlighten the people. They're intending to subvert you. Do you understand? But that does not mean every Mason in the lodge has that position. You got many clandestine people in there. All Negroes are clandestine. Any Negro Mason is clandestine from day one. Negro black people, because they're fictions. They even asking Europeans, can they wear the bread test? Will you recognize us? It belongs to them. Europeans are their sons, who they deny. Now they're being denied. And they don't like it. They call it prejudice. In other words, essentially, we're all one. There's only one nation here, it's the Moorish nation across the world. All nations derive from the ancient Moabites. But they had to corrupt the history. Do you understand? And if you go into European families, start talking all kind of trash to you, well, go into their family, go into their coats of arms. They're Moors. They're not going to tell you about that Yaqubian experiment, are they? Not the real truth. You know, but that's not, contrary to what most people think, that's not a negative. A lot of people misrepresent that information. It wasn't done for evil intent. It was done to release some karma. And because of falling of civilization, to get back. Because we also needed lighter bodies. That comes from great experiments. So don't misunderstand that. So don't get caught up in that thing that you see out there, white and black people. That's friction. That's total fiction. And that's evil meanness. There's human family and you got nationalities. Respect that. But ultimately, you're the daddy. The problem is that you fell asleep. And they traded places with you. Because you start following after gods of Rome that you didn't know anything about. Because you're dealing with beliefs instead of facts. And he robbed you. That's basically all what happened. And stole your birthright. Or put it another way, you sold it. Like in the book of, they'll tell you in a code manner, coded, like in the book of Genesis, in the Heliotext, chapter 25, 2 and 5 makes what? 7. And they'll tell you about Isaac, son of Abraham, and Rebekah, who married Isaac, and she had 2 sons, Jacob and Esau. And Jacob stole Esau's birthright for a bowl of red pottage. It's code red. You understand? And Esau disrespected, thought his birthright was of no value. What good is it going to do me? Then he became Jacob's servant. Jacob fooled Isaac because he was going blind, and Rebekah aided in deceiving so that Jacob could steal all of Esau's inheritance. Well, that's coded, and that's you. And they reversed it in the womb. Now Rebekah was with child, and she had 2 sons, Isaac's children, offspring of Abraham. So these are dealing with descendants of Abraham. And all the so-called religions claim they're tied to Abraham, which is really modern, truthfully. And it says, in her womb was 2 different nations, 2 different manner of people. Look at that seal again. You got dual seal, but the dual seal is one. It's a metaphysical lesson. And you're living it right now. You want your birthright back? You want your inheritance back? You better understand what's been said to you. And all of those who say they don't know, they've been told anyway. Whether they're Christians, Jews, Muslims, etc. They've all been told. And they're all going to be charged with upholding that law. And if they don't, that includes us, I guarantee you, beyond a shadow of doubt, with my last breath, you'll be sorry. And it's to a degree out of our hands in the sense that the cosmic mother is taking this battle up now. So when the prophet moved off with the message, the spirit of our ancestors took that space. And anybody don't carry it out, you're getting hooked. Really? We're going to fulfill this, or we're going to pay the consequences. The European sons are going to tell you the truth. And if they don't, they're going to fulfill the consequences. And if you don't agree to this principle, you're all going to pay the consequences. And there is no way out. I don't care who tells you anything to the contrary. What the prophet did was simply give us some keys. Not some emotionalism or some belief system, but keys to get out of this mess that we got ourselves into. In other words, he didn't say, well, feelings go this way, or just love stuff. And no, he gave us actual keys. And he says, there's but one issue. And that is the enforcement of this Constitution, because it's divine principles. And if you don't enforce those principles, which is isonomy, which is that compass in the square, which means equal rights for everyone in the society. That's why it was set up on divine principles of nature's God and nature's law. Don't carry it out, Don't worry about what men say. Don't worry about what their customs are. Nature's going to kick your butt. You want to save yourself? You want to save this nation? Enforce isonomy. Enforce the Constitution. And it's yours. Don't look at it as the European's document. It's yours. If you pay attention, he has been outside the law because he hasn't carried it out. And he, in order to come into the caste system that the Moors had, the Whig-a-Moor party, they called the Whigs party, Whig-a-Moor party, start calling themselves white peoples. Because they could not be free white people. Because it does not mean Caucasian race. It does not mean European race. It's a caste. And so is black. And black is the lowest caste. Now, that's why they don't want you to have the 3rd and the 4th edition of Black's Law Dictionary. Because it's in there. But they edited it out of the later editions. That's why the 3rd and 4th is the killers. You understand what I'm saying? So when you're filing lawsuits, this is the body of information that must be in your mind already. It must not be a piece of information that, I heard that before. Don't go there. It must be at the root of the source of your thinking. When you walk before Rome. When you walk before the Romans, you better be Moabite for real if you got any defense. And you got the biggest gun in the world. It's called the truth. And that's that scimitar, Adul. If you don't use it, don't worry, they're going to take your head. You understand? This is the Goliath principle. You know what I mean? This is really, that's what it is. In the book of Daniel, we're talking about that, the monster, with legs of iron, feet of clay. That represents the corruption. So when they got that sword over your head, you take your sword and you hit them feet. It means the foundation. And the foundation, you hit them with the law. And the first law is yourself. But you cannot be the law if you don't know yourself. Keep that in mind. And before I get too far away, let me get back to what we talked about before. Indexus prohibitorum. Back in the dictionary. This is how proud they are. Because they know we all sorcered up. Now listen. Index, which you already know, is anything used to indicate, to point out, to guide, as the index finger. Oh, you know that, right? Let me give it to you. Anyhow, or forefinger, the hand of a clock, a pointer, etc. Anything that manifests or denotes an index of character, an alphabetic list of matters, references, etc., as in a book. Now listen to this. Let's go back down. You've got Index Expurgatorius. Now, it's a list of interdicted books prepared by the Holy Office of the Roman Catholic Church. The Index Expurgatorius, no longer officially prepared, indicated those books which certain expurgations might be read. That means limited information. Then you got Index Librorum Prohibitorum, and that's the books which are prohibited or forbidden. In other words, what they did with the Inquisitionists, when they was burning the books, they have certain books that they put in what you call rare libraries or protected libraries. That has to do with the Moorish Empire, the rulership, etc. Rulership here. Philadelphia, where government really was before. Morocco, up near the Great Lakes. Toledo, Ohio, the triangular port from which we ruled. The pathway to Boston and to Chicago, where you ruled before they took over, and have you lunched out thinking that this was some kind of wilderness and we was Indians and all that kind of crap. You know what I mean? You know how you talk about George Washington, the guys were, stuff was rough, man, so because, like when they was fighting, man, they was poor, it was freezing and stuff, and they had rags around their feet, and, these buildings was down here at Independence Hall and everything. You notice how low them windows are? Does that sound like war buildings to you? You ever walk down past the Independence Hall? Look at that building. You can, you know, those windowsills come like that here. You ever seen those buildings before they covered them up inside? Brass rails, intricate architecture. Does that sound like a war economy to you? Huh? We're at Georgie, sailing to Delaware, going up to Trenton, beating his keisters, went up to New York, they beat his keisters and stuff like that. And the redcoats are coming, don't fire your muskets till you see the whites of their eyes contrasted against their dark skin. Anybody ever go to Gettysburg when they have the Gettysburg Address on a yearly thing and they have the war enactment and everything? Go there and you'll see them Europeans come there every day dressed in Moorish costumes. And you'll see statues all the place with fezzes on them. And you never even pay attention to it. You're home. That's the point. Gettysburg, where Abraham Lincoln gave his so-called great speech, and his grandpa was a Moor. That's why they made mockery of him. And you look in the old newspapers, you'll see them dressed him in Moorish pantaloon with a scimitar, because they're angry because he was dealing with this Emancipation Proclamation thing, and it was confusing. Although the emancipation means transfer of property, the fakery making you think that it freed you, he was trying to hold the nation together. And they also mocked him because of his kind of curly hair and his ruddy skin, because his grandpa was a Moor. And so they did satires in the newspaper with him dressed in Moorish garb. But of course, we don't go into archives and look at stuff like that, do we? You understand what I'm saying? That's also why they killed him. Because they figured he was tricking them, you know, and really emancipating the Moors. He was really emancipating the European sons and then trying to bring peace. But it was up to Moors to emancipate themselves. But what he was trying to do is save the Union. You understand what I'm saying? And so a lot of us look at that history as their history. That's your history too. There's nothing that happens here that's not your history. This is your land, this is your government, and what they did, trade places and took over when they were actually the subordinate party. All right? Now, one more thing, I want to go into the Black's Law Dictionary. Keep note on this. Anybody got notes? Take notes. Remember, this is concept of mind. This has to do with soups because this is concept of mind of how you must be thinking. Do you understand? What must be already part of your knowledge base. Free white persons. Are we hearing? Black's Law Dictionary contains definition of the terms and phrases of American and English jurisprudence, ancient and modern. Ancient and modern. Are you with me? Keep note. Free white persons. Edition 3, Black's Law Dictionary, page 817. Middle of the page, second column. Free white persons. Absorb this, absorb this, absorb this. Free white persons refer to in Naturalization Act, as amended by Act July 14, 1870, has meaning naturally given to it when used in 1 Statute 103C3, meaning all persons belonging to the European races then commonly counted as white, and their descendants, including such descendants in other countries to which they have immigrated. Now, that's your perception because that was the common use of the term. Meaning the Albus or the Albion, which means Albus, Albion's sons, and even called parts of the land, particularly over in the Washington State area, New Albion, when we colonized them in certain areas. Now, but that is not what it means, and this is here to clarify it for you. What free white person means, it includes all European Jews more or less intermixed. This is a caste system I want you to understand. It includes all European Jews more or less intermixed with peoples of Celtic, and Celtics is Moors, in case you didn't know that. Scandinavian, Teutonic, Iberian, Moors again. Latin, Moors again, Greek, and Slavic descent. It includes Magyars, Lats, and Finns, and the Basques and Albanians. It includes the mixed Latin, Celtic, Iberian, and Moorish inhabitants of Spain and Portugal. The mixed Greek, Latin, Phoenicians, Moors again, and North African inhabitants of Sicily, Moors again, and the mixed Slav and Tartar inhabitants of South Russia, Red Russians, Moors. It does not mean Caucasian race. Do you hear me? This is law book. It does not mean Caucasian race. It does not mean Aryan race. It does not mean Indo-European races, nor mixed Indo-European, Dravidian, Semitic, and Mongolian peoples who inhabit Persia. This is law case here. A Syrian of Asiatic birth and descent will not be entitled to become a naturalized citizen of the United States as being a free white person, ex parte Shahid, DC 205 F812 813, United States versus Cartosian, DC 6 F2D 919 921, ex parte Dow, DC 211 F4 86 487, Enray and Exong, DC 271 F23. I want you to understand that that's a caste system. So when the European says that he's white and you agree and don't contend it because you're white, you understand what you did? You just made him the ruler of the land. You dig it? That's why they call themselves white. Because white means God, God means ruler of the land. And that's law. See how unsafe it is for you to use those terms when you don't know what you're doing? Calling people black and white and all that kind of stuff. And saying you black, and I'm proud of my black self. You just cursed yourself and made him God, then you're mad because he act like it. You made him God, now you're angry. Huh. So don't be pissed off. You're pissed off at yourself and straighten yourself up. And be yourself. Stop faking and being somebody that you're not. Because you're the rightful heir to the land. Act like it, but not with arrogance. And don't get mad at them, because they just, you know, it's like it's, you know how you taking care of somebody, you got a responsibility to somebody because they out to lunch, they got an amnesia, and they're walking around, gold coins is falling out the pocket, and they say, well, that's not according to my law of Jesus and my love of God. And you keep on, the coins is falling, and then somebody, they start picking them up and stuff like that, and somebody else says, hey man, you're robbing him. And then the guy says, well, he don't want it. Why you get mad at me? Am I right? Huh? So the Moors, they want to be Africans, right? Just because Scipio Africanus, they decided he was their god. That's a Roman general who was fighting the Moors, so now they call themselves Africans and Africans Americans. That's a Roman general. That don't stop them from being Moors, it just means they was faking it then. Right? Now they call themselves Negro, Black, and Color, because Philip II of Rome, of the Roman Church, that of course they was adopting to prove they was Christians, put out a bull, which is an edict of law from the canon law saying that the Moors, this is 1511, shall be called Spaniards. They don't hide that in history. So now they call them Moorish, Latin, Spanish. And then the Moors who lost the language talking about that ain't our language. And yet all science and law that is translated or given to the people is put in Latin. And all medical stuff put in Arabic, etc. And Aramaic. And that's all your language. Belongs to you. And we're not Spanish, and we're not Puerto Rican, we're not Latino. We're Moroccans. And we are direct descendants of those Moroccans. And when you see the brothers and sisters on the islands, you call them Latins, they Moors too. And the language is not Spanish. The language is Latin, Moorish Latin. And they're not Spanish. And when you talk about Puerto Ricans, well, they're Puerto Ricans. No, that means rich poor. And they call it rich poor because they went down there cutting the women's head off because we kept the gold on the women's necks. And solid with no separation. Because our matriarchal system, the wealth was maintained on the women. And so they wore the jewelry. And we wore silver, mostly the brothers. We wouldn't wear the gold because the gold was for the woman because she brought life to earth. Although we hear her son, and the gold represent the son absorbed by the earth. She wore the gold that represented the wealth of the family. And they called it rich port because they came there and they chopped their heads off and stole the gold and said, man, this is a rich port. That's what Puerto Rico means. Rich port. It's not a nationality. They're Moors. And there's Moorish ports all down in Cuba, Puerto Rico, Dominica, everywhere in the islands, South America, the United States of Brazil, the United States of Mexico, etc. And the Alamo is Allah's Moors. One star state. Then Louisiana, where you see the crescent and star, they still use it upside down. One of the last strongholds before you went out to lunch. And the Mardi Gras and the Mummers Parade that they have right here is in mockery of you. You're home. That's the point. Have that in your head when you walk into a courtroom. And when you walk in the courtroom, any documents or papers that you fill out, etc., put your Moorish nationality on it. If they call you something else, you put your Moorish nationality on it anyway. Any documents they say race. Whenever you have a document that they say race, you have a right to do what? Exactly, or to do what? Put an affidavit to it. Or write over it. So if someone asks you your race, what is your race? Human. What do most people do? Light-skinned green people. Man, boy, I was at the mall the other day, man. I saw these light-skinned black leather shoes, boy. Snakeskin and stuff. Even a child knows that black don't come in light skin. That's lunch. But they know we are boys and girls. Because we relegate our common sense and authority to civilized beings who have us in worship, so they place their name on us as a curse. And then we all tell what Jesus wants, what the Bible wants. Book of Isaiah. Book of Jeremiah leads into it. It says, I hold my hand out all the day long to a hard-hearted and rebellious people who are not called by my name. When they repent from their sinful ways, I will hear from heaven and heal their land. Who do you think that's talking about? What body of people on this planet been going around for generations calling themselves by somebody else's name and being proud about it? Of course, we're too proud to admit that, aren't we? That's why everybody lets us stew in our nigger juice and just sets up shop and make a living off us. Because we're arrogant, self-righteous, poisonously, foaming at the mouth, do push cards up and down the aisle, don't tell you what Jesus wants. Don't even know themselves. And little European children from around the world knows who we are. Everybody in the world knows who we are but us. We out to lunch. Now, I'll get to you too. Brother, I apologize.
Peace. Brother Taj, can you speak to the issue that's often raised? I had a lecture here on what it would take for our movements to unite. And it seems as though to me, based on some of the feedback that I have received, our people want to continuously cling to the things and the names that allude to slavery.
Yes. And
they want to be able to have all these so-called outlets to get out of this Negro problem. Yes. And I pointedly summarized that particular lecture under one key term, that in order for our movements to unite, the people must be nationalized as well as everything in our land.
And I agree.
And not only the things in our land, our diets, our clothing, our way of life, our attitudes, everything, even in terms of commerce, the gold, the silver.
Now, you're absolutely correct, and I understand your... Now, does everyone understand the question? He's making a question and a statement.
Exactly.
Yes.
But I would like for you to speak to that, because it seems I guess here's the key factor I want you to speak on, if you will. Our people want to cling to things.
Yes.
And don't want to face the reality and the truth. See, what you're doing is you're substantiating what you're saying. You understand? And you have proof in the pudding, but when you bring the proof and the truth to our people, they still want to fight. Say, well, I want to be African. We all Africans, and I'm black. Despite that, and we're going to do a revolution, and we're going to win.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that?
Yes. Very simple. You know how Romans take pride, and they're not there to be studied and appreciated. They're not God for nothing. You know, God is a generic term. God does not mean the supreme being. God means anything that is worshipped, adorized, or praised. Doesn't mean that it's positive or negative. You know, and because Allah has names. Divine providence has names. God does not mean divine providence. When they accepted that trick, they was already out the box. One of the things that the Prophet had mentioned to the Moors, and particularly to the Arabs, sheiks, etc. He says, the half has not been told. If I told you everything, you would go back to sleep. Study, study, study. And when you would have studied well and would come and ask me what to study next, I would reply, study yourselves. He brought the keys by teaching you of yourselves and teaching you to be yourselves, because in the process of that study, you become part of it, means that it becomes your own. You know, like if you're, like you hold that meeting and you're trying to encourage Moors to unite, we're talking about conscious Moors. What is it that you really recognize that's a violation with us? This is a violation with us. Dwali said, in order to change the people, and I'm going to repeat that statement, in order to change the people, you must change their literature. Which means, you've got all these sheiks, Arabs, with all these charms on and all these titles, all these seats of power, am I correct? Who the people trust and believe in. How many of them have written a book with what they know and presented it to the people for them to analyze, to criticize, to dissect, to give them some kind of footing that you know those who know are not telling? So if the sons of the Moabites won't talk, you know the Masons ain't, because they're bound by oath of death. And you know the Jesuits ain't, because they're stealing your birthright and infiltrated all parts of government. You know the Ku Klux Klan ain't, because they're not going to let the Moabite sons hit that European woman and kill that strain, because he's going to protect that queen of the lower light. Now, if we know these things and don't tell our brothers and sisters, can they know? If they've been taught by the Romans and the Roman agents, i.e. black and nigger preachers, overseers, who were given those titles, and that's what they really represent, because a black leader is an overseer, because that's what the title is. You know they don't know that. They don't even know the science of genealogy. They don't know the science of rulership. They don't even know the stars that's in that flag that's governing here. They don't even know that it's a constellation. They don't even know the original star was Hex Alpha and not the 5 point. But they changed it because they didn't want too much information to get out symbolically. But the Moors know this. You know the Masons know this. You know the Jesuits know this. You know government officials know this. You know the industrialists know this. But everybody's silent. Why? It's not to their economic benefit for these troops to be out. But the Moors have a charge. They have a nationality card, don't we? They decided not to be their brother's keepers, didn't they? Didn't they? Didn't they? So when you or I or a brother or sister here who knows walks up to a brother or sister on the street or in the Bronx or in Los Angeles or in Hollywood or in Louisiana and try to school them, they think you're trying to convert to them some kind of religion because you're Muslim. They don't even know that Muslim means the body. Why? Because some Asiatic corrupted agents with the Europeans got people thinking that, well, you know, Muslim means one who submits to the will of Allah. Muslim is the physical body. Even the Europeans are Muslim. It's muscles and tissues and bones. The manifest fetus coming out of the womb of woman. Everything that lives here is Muslim. You submit to Allah because you ain't got a choice. And the sun shines on the good as well as the evil. And you eat and breathe and take up space. Now show me other rules that we going by that's here. That we can subvert that. Is that a fact? You see what I'm saying to you? But what blocks people is their quote-unquote fictional taught belief systems, their deication. But in order to attack the deication, which is sorcery, you can't tell them that they're under the rule of sorcery. Because they, one, won't believe you. One, two, they'll think you out to lunch. Three, they think you're a witch. And everything else. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So you got to bring them back to the earth from an intelligent and scientific point of view. So you're going to have to dig up what the Inquisitionists didn't bury. Do you understand? Then you're going to have to take what they got and decode it. But you got to decode it with your third eye. You got to see what the common people can't see. It's a state of mind again. When you acquire that state of mind, they can give you any piece of literature and you can break it off. If you don't do it immediately, you can break it down later. That's why you have to have certain codes or certain pieces of information to change your state of mind so that you can see different. And until they begin to see different, you're not going to do anything with them. Do you understand what I'm saying? And you know, and I know that adept means expert. Am I right, brother? Now, if the experts who were given the charge and the responsibility to teach the people sold Jesus out, Joshua, right? Sold him out. So do you expect them to come free you? Because you know if the people knew the truth, they'd been free a long time ago. But they think it's some kind of spook game, don't they? How do they think that? Because the so-called leaders have taught them that. The same leaders that got nationality cards in their pockets and know the truth and sit on it. And then when you come along to try to raise them, they say, oh man, he's just some kind of religious guy, some black thing, he's some version of Islam, you know, and pray 5 times a day and everything be all right. Of course, when they do it, it doesn't work, does it? Because the babies still get lynched. The women still get raped. They still in nigger lines. You understand what I'm saying? And so they don't believe it because people keep coming from a religious perspective. Religious is not spiritual. They're not related. But how many people relate spirituality and religion as one? You know what most people do, don't they? They don't know that sorcerers have been dealing with them. They don't know that most of the people in these holy garbs are sorcerers. And what happens if you tell them that? They'll come lynch you. You throw them a life raft and they're drowning. And they'll talk about, can't swim for shit, excuse the expression. I ain't in the plaid because it's not my belief. And let the babies drown too. Do you understand what I'm saying? Huh? They're going to tell you what God wants and pray while they're getting lynched. And do it generation after generation after generation after generation and then lie to their babies and talk about they're saved. And get mad at you because you will point it out that they can't be. So you don't go there. I mean, you understand where I'm coming from? Now you go once more's who get a little bit of this information, and then what do? They try to use the UCC codes. Am I correct? Not that they're not, it's not a method. We even put it, even some literature, we gave it, what, about 20 years ago, we gave people UCC codes to show them how the thing worked. Then people start selling packages, making money off of them, their brothers and sisters. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? It's the political forum where your power is, the plebiscite where your power is. It doesn't mean that it doesn't put some things in check, but that's not the way out. Nevertheless, they must understand those processes and what it is for, what it is used for. Now, the UCC's 1-207, 1-103 is the two codes within the UCCs that gives you the opportunity to get back into constitutional law. What people do, they try to argue the UCCs as that's the law, when they should use 1-207, 1-103, come back into constitutional fold in the proper personnel, then enforce the Constitution, because that's the supreme law of the land. But no, they don't want to get back into the constitutional fold, do they? Huh? Let's go back to what Noble Dwali says, back to what you're just talking about. I'm talking to you remedy, to what you talked about. And I'm talking about concepts. Concept of mind when you enter this thing. You who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles is the key, right? You who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know law. So what's the supreme law of the land? What's one of the first questions in what Great Seal lessons that have been given for ages? What's the supreme law of the land? Well, if the Constitution is supreme law, why are you using UCCs? I mean, you see how simple that is? But it doesn't mean that you don't use them as a qualification to get back to the law with those who are operating under the UCCs. That goes with the banks, etc., and all the other institutions. But if you don't know that concept, if you don't use it in that context, you're floating right into what? Outside law or foreign law. See, what they got 1-207 and 1-103 for is really to protect themselves, not you. Because they can't make a foreign law and then not give you the ability to get back to the law. Because then they're absolute criminals. You have a right to literally walk up to them and put a bullet in their head. And the international community has the obligation to back you up. But since you've been colored people, you don't have a right to do nothing. Because you're their property. And then if you're going to use this UCCs as the law, you just denied the Constitution, which is what they're trying to get you to do. That's why he says what? Fourth paragraph. I love my people, and I desire their unity. Unity is also on the Constitution, ain't it? And mind, he included himself, back to their own national and divine standard, because day by day they have been violating the national and constitutional laws of their government by claiming names and principles that are unconstitutional. What is our problem? We've been unconstitutional. That's why color of law has been governing here, because we've been colored people. But don't you get in the questionnaire, elementary lesson for babies. You're not Negro, black, and colored. We agreed, didn't we? Then turn right around and start supporting color of law. No contest, no contemporary. We didn't contend nothing, no objections. Let them cause color, operate in color. And back to a principle where the prophet has said, if you can't convince your brother and sister that he's not Negro, black, and colored, there's no need to tell him anything else. What does that mean? Because his fate is sealed. So that means you must first remedy the foundation of their whole concepts. If you don't remedy that, all the other things that you're trying to reason with them with, it doesn't wash. And it doesn't mean that they're insincere. It means they don't have the knowledge. And for a lack of knowledge, they're being destroyed by the day. So it is the duty of those who have the knowledge to give it to their brothers and sisters. It don't belong to us. We're just channels. It is our responsibility to aid our brothers and sisters and take every opportunity that we can on every front to do what we can to the crude ability that we have to teach them and not go to the grave with this information. You want to raise them up? You want to reason? You know what's going to make the unity? This is what's going to make the unity. This is the prophecy. This is the mathematics. Pain. However, it is your duty to your mothers and your fathers to tell it like it is. Knowing that some of us are going to be cast into prison, knowing that some of us are going to catch opposition, is to tell it. Because that's the weapon. When their mind changes, the atmosphere literally will change. The earth is sick because we're sick. You know that religion has taught them that there's no relationship, but those who know the science of Islam know that we're connected to the earth, that our sickness reflects in the earth, and she reflects back at us. And when our minds change, the literal atmosphere changes, and he can no longer practice color of law if we stop being colored people. So if we share the information, you want the unity? Keep on doing what you're doing. You know, it's sort of like not getting caught up in the fiction of, you know, you plant a seed and you get caught up in, you know, let's go over here and plant the seed. Excuse me for that. Put a couple seeds in the ground here. And pour some water on it. Boy, didn't I do that? Then 5 minutes later, you're going like this. Man, told you them seeds wasn't no good. I don't see nothing happening. Man, oh, that's not your job. Your job is to prepare that earth, plant the seed, and go about your business. Let the moon and the sun do their job. Because the mind is an earth. And a thought is a seed. Your job is to plant it and leave it alone. And don't even judge it. But be sure that you plant. And be satisfied. Because there is nothing that goes unrecorded. And you already know this thing is planes. That the future, the past, and the present are simply planes. And that time is an instrument we use for the record, but it really don't exist. You were raising your hand.
What will the Caucasian do? Where will the Caucasian go when we fully come into our standing here in Mexico?
There's two things. In order to save him, we must absorb him. He knows that and we know it. We deny it. This has been part of the social problem, is that we have denied him. See, we denied her, which is the European, or the daughters, because of our own experiments on ourselves, and because of our not wanting to acknowledge the mix that we made in Patagonia of the animal and the human seed with flowers in the grand experiments in South America, South of Mexico, and in the Yucatan area when we had later abandoned the central part because of the diseases of syphilis, gonorrhea, tuberculosis that came about from those great experiments. Then we took the European sons because they were more degenerate and put them on the Isle of Patmos, which we call England or Albion, and put them behind the rock, gathering up the blue eyes that's called in the Quran, and put them there. But we kept the daughters and we put them in our harems. And it's they who rebelled and taught their sons, and that's what the American Revolution is. Now, yes, the DAR. That's why when you see, if anybody travels outside the land and it comes into the United States, and you'll get a citizenship manual, and it's called the DAR manual. And they will show you the seal with the bird, but they will not display the Great Seal. And they will tell you they didn't have the space for it. But the DAR is not going to put that in there. Why? Because that's the sovereign, that's you, who are asleep. Because they must live off of you. They're not angry, and they're not, like our people saying, well, white people don't like us. That's bull. That's put out there, how you say, you know how like when you put a plumbing in, and you put a hot water tank in, you got a pressure release valve? That's what civil rights arguments is for. That's what racism is for. to let you get your stuff off and then go back to niggerism next week while they steal your birthright. You understand what I'm saying to you? Now, let me finish this and I'll clarify this. I'm going to tell you what's happening and what's going to happen. All Europeans are not going home. Some of them will be here, will be teaching you government. Some of them, because a lot of them are good farmers, because they had made that part of the culture. Because originally when we made this, the servant caste, we made them as servants or as slaves, and we became slaves. But that was our karmic debt. You understand? They know that we don't know that history. So most Moors look at the history, man, them Europeans put us in slavery, man, and they was rotten. But we had them as slaves first. You know, and all we is getting it back. You know, because debts must be paid. Because the law of compensation is rooted in nature, not in your opinions. You understand what I'm saying? So we must learn to love instead of hate. That's number one. You understand? Now, many of those who are going back are going because they will not hold up isonomy or the Constitution law. Because government is an abstract. It is not a building near the Potomac, etc. You know, or down City Hall. That's not the government. Government is you. But we lost that because we started taking the physical things and thinking that that constitutes government. What constitutes government is principles and the maintenance of those things. It's an abstract, but it must be part of the hearts and the minds of the people. It must be taught to them the same way that religions have been taught to them. If you lose that, you lose your government. It is divine. You understand what I'm saying to you? So many European sons going back, we're going to absorb. And when you see, contrary to a lot of things that people try to say to the contrary, you see Asiatics with Europeans, sons, and Asiatic women with European sons, and Asiatic men with European women. Do not take offense. Do not take offense. Believe me, that's the solving. That's what's going to kill the dragon. And we are dragon slayers. This is the reason why the code of Kaiklos, which is the Ku Klux Klan, is not, and also the Civil War. That's why it took place, to stop the Moabite sons from marrying into pale-skinned nations of Europe. Because the Moabite strain is so powerful that it kills any genetic strain below it, because it's the mother and the father of civilization. However, because we're going into the photon belt, and the photon belt means shift in galaxies. Just like you got a clock, just like, you know, clock we got on, you know, and we're measuring that by the sun. You used to have a clock with a double dial measured by the sun and the moon. Then you got the sun, the moon, the planets. See, but then it becomes too complicated, don't it? But governors don't forget that. They just let you forget that. Because everybody operates by the clock. You understand what I'm saying? So they know that as we're moving into the photon belt, the atmosphere is changing, means the earth is quickening. So what's going to happen is that the sun operates in this atmosphere or in this solar system along with Saturn, just like an immune system. Like your white corpuscles operate in your blood system, and it starts killing things that are out of order. Saturn sends back all your checks that you wrote. You wrote some checks? Them rings of Saturn contrary, it's going to send them back. You won't cash them. Saturn is the devil to those who don't know how this universe works. But it's not negative in the concept that you think it is. Do you understand? Really. And as we move into the photon belt, the sun intensifies. And you know you got the apogee and epigee of the earth as it moves, long points and short points to the sun, and also dealing with the seasons. Well, guess what? The vibrational points of the sun and the earth is intensifying. It's quickening. Anything that's mutant or outside of nature is going to burn up. You know how comets burn up? So the great experiment has been done, but it's not complete. And so in order to save our sons, we must absorb them. And we must also acknowledge that they are our sons. Just because they've been ruling and misusing that rulership, we're pissed off and call them aliens. No, it's true. It's the truth. Which caused her womb to be sad. And out of her sad womb, she has produced insane sons, which is what's wrong with him. You understand? So Constitution not only means that divine document, Constitution means literally make up. Who made you? Who made you? Who's Allah? What is father? What is derived from? Father is derived from pata. Pata is derived from paternity. Paternity is derived from nativity or the birth of a woman. So the father is still the mother because he's subordinate. But you haven't recognized that, have you? All right. So now you know who Allah is. And she's unhappy. And by the very nature of her womb, she will give birth to the sovereign. It operates in nature. It has nothing to do with your belief systems. But once you understand, then you understand why sons of destiny are born cyclically to fix this problem. You call them prophets. Once you understand those rules, they don't change. What do the prophets do? Change the vibrational static points to active points amongst the people to get them thinking again. When they think again, the atmosphere changes, for they are gods and makers of their own condition. But I'm just telling you how it works. So therefore, teach the people. They will solve the problem. That's why the Drew Ali said to the people, he says, this is your Moorish movement. The Negro problem is your problem. Even some of the Europeans are helping me. Why aren't you? But he also said, we do not seek to marry into the pale-skinned nations of Europe. Why? Because we're out of order. You understand? You got to solve your problem first, because it continues, because the great sin exists with us. That's why nobody wanted to marry, what, black people or niggers, because you bring that corruption and that baggage into the family, and you corrupt them. And you sit around and feel sorry for yourself, because the womb is corrupted. Why? Because what you think affects the gene pool. Because just like any other science, that womb is a school. And however that woman thinks, she's teaching that child is already educated when it comes, whether it's negative or positive. However, they also don't want you to know that, so that you don't use it positively and solve this problem. You tired of this, sisters? Tired of this crap we go through? When you all decide you're tired of this, S-H-I-T, it'll start ending. And us sons, you know, we talk stuff, and a lot of men get credit for a lot of crap. All we doing is carrying out our mother's orders. Don't think it's ever different than that. It may appear that every male that's born here is going to serve his mother, his sister, girlfriend, wife, some woman. We're here to serve. Sometimes we don't like it. Sometimes we get pissed off. But man, everything a man does, no man can have $1 million in his pocket. We can go play basketball, you understand what I'm saying? Drink a soda and sleep on a sofa and be satisfied. Woman come in, we got to go get silk curtains and everything. Got to go get the stuff, clap your hands, and drapes got to open up like that. Got to get silk blankets and all that stuff. But other than that, we don't care. Not that we don't care, but we're mechanical. But women inspire men to civilization.
That's right.
It's serious. I mean, we ain't going to, you know, all men ain't going to admit that to you. But that's the real deal. You know, we come out the womb, spend the rest of our life trying to get back in. You know, it's true. Now, what you got to do is don't misuse that knowledge, but use it wisely. Because men operate on principles of loyalty. When man feels that loyalty is not around him, he falls apart. Men stay with women on that principle, and men leave women for the lack of that principle. That's what he operates on. in his nature, not what he says. He can say all kind of crap. But really, that's the key. Now, you're the key to civilization. And it's been in your hands all the time. But we followed after the gods of Europe that we knew nothing of, these idol gods. That's what got us messed up. You must shed them. But nobody can make you shed them because they're in your mind. So you got to have another body of information that releases you from those chains. But again, you got to want it. But the European is also sealed too, because he has no choice. Because it's also in his gene pool. He's going to have to tell you. You know what I'm saying? He can't. It's no escape. He's going to have to tell you the truth. But it's up to you to really pay attention to what you think you're hearing and what you are hearing. And just like I go into the, like you say, dictionary, law dictionary to show you stuff that's right there. What part of the rulership of the Romans is to boast? You understand what I'm saying? So he boasts of his exploits. So if he do something to you, he may code it, but he's going to write it down. This is the reason why they spent so much energy and time in the period after the Civil War to force illiteracy amongst us so that you wouldn't read. And they give you idol gods so you wouldn't feel it's necessary to read. See, because you just believe stuff. You know, you kill your baby, just believe it's all right. Right, oh, it's all right with the Lord. Oh, I'm a man of God, God-fearing. And they say all that stuff, and we start carrying that stuff along too. You know what I mean? They just live off of us. But once you know the truth of divinity and spirituality, you know all that is fiction. However, you know the common people don't know that. They associate religion with Allah. Allah has no associates. Can't be bought or sold, and it ain't like some, slot machine where every week it costs nickels, costs money to make them work, and then the prayers don't work after Sunday and all that kind of crap. You understand what I'm saying? He's not subordinate to money, which is subordinate to man. Isn't it funny how all these gods are always broke that people introduce them to? I mean, serious. And the people never question it because they don't know that sorcerers are operating. They don't know that most of these people are sorcerers. And if you really said that, they would want to lynch you too, just like they did Jesus. And I'll just tell you this lesson. You know his name was Joshua. But remember when Jesus came amongst his own and they received him not? You know what the truth is? Organized religionists and the political state in conspiracy plotted his assassination and carried it out in partnership, in secret meetings, in their lodges, and then told the world, there's a separation of church and state. And you believe them. The devil did it, and we got to raise some money to fight the devil and to do God's work. And you believe it. And you've been doing it ever since. This is back to a lesson to fight with, brother. Do you understand where I come from? So the point of you got to turn, you've got to give the people such information that they be willing on their own to turn religion back to the Romans. Not hate it, but turn it back to them and go back to those principles of their ancient mothers and fathers, which is spirituality, cosmology, based on that which is. Do you understand? And that doesn't change. When you stop seeing universality in principles, start looking for the lie. These are standards that every being on the planet must have. Because these are keys to civilization. They must be known. They must be taught. So for you to teach them, you must free yourself of idol god worship. You must know the difference between custom and truth. This is the reason why when you really study, now you look at your nationality cards. What is one of the things that Noble Drawley did with a nationality card most people don't even pay attention to? Say, we honor all divine prophets. What? Confucius, name them. Jesus, what? Buddha, Muhammad, and Ali. What is he telling you? Now that's your first key that you get when you nationalize. It means go study them, because your sciences are hidden within all of them. You're reversing the polarity, but you're not taking the ritual, you're stripping the ritual and taking the spiritual foundation and principles, the unification of the nation. And so Muslims, Moors have always been known to do what when they rule? To even help Christians build churches. Tolerance. That's why Moors have been known for that. Why? Because we know that religion is a solace system that was set up by the Moors to keep harmony and peace in society for the common people. Where you would rule yourself and not act like animals. However, you're to be taught the liberal arts and things of science so that you know that when you become a child, when you become an adult, you put away the childish concepts and deal with science. Now Adam ain't no longer Adam sitting there with, a leaf over his wiener diener, and you know that Adam is atom. And you start dealing with the structure of all matter. And you know that Eve is evolution. But that's for adults. But when they're a child, you get them little building blocks, don't you? And that's all. That's all it ever has been. But the leaders ain't going to tell because they'll lose their, funding, won't they? They'll lose their lunch money. Creator. They're ordained by the state. And they're partners with them. But of course, we don't want to deal with reality, do we? So when people begin to really study government principles, study issues of jurisprudence, etc., they begin to find out certain principles, just like when they go down and get a marriage license, right? Then they study to find out comes under Article 39 of police powers. Has nothing to do with divine, nothing between you and God and all this stuff. No, it has to do with the corporation state, which makes your children, your offspring, the property of the state. And then they take that birth certificate and then auction it off. What, they send all the birth certificates? What state, what part of that Pennsylvania where they send all birth certificates? No, of course, the country. We talking about just... No, somewhere, I apologize for getting, because it slipped my mind. But they send all the birth certificates there, and they're marketed. They're stock. They're stock certificates.
Like, share, and subscribe. That shit Federal TV. Blah.